Chapter 126. Her body automatically made the most seductive movements. When her waist moved, it was the most comfortable position. Ning Shu clamped her buttocks, not allowing her waist to move. Her entire body stiffened as she walked toward Situ Qingyu. Situ Qingyu took off his shirt without hesitation, revealing his muscular body. The only thing that ruined the scene was the bloodstain on his arm. Situ Qingyu said indifferently, "Help me bandage my wound." Ning Shu said directly, "I don't know how to." Situ Qingyu narrowed his eyes and looked at Ning Shu dangerously. "Don't you know how to bandage a wound? You really are a lady from a noble family." Situ Qingyu's voice was full of sarcasm as he said coldly, "You ladies from noble families have your eyes in the sky. You are my captive now. Whatever I say goes." Ning Shu pursed his lips and wrapped the cloth that Yuelan had torn around Situ Qingyu's arm. Situ Qingyu seemed to have thought of something bad and looked at Ning Shu with ferocity and disgust. "Shouldn't you clean the wound first? You really don't eat the food of mortals." Ning Shu used the cloth to wipe his wound. Situ Qingyu hissed in pain and looked at Ning Shu coldly. "Did you do it on purpose?" "No," Ning Shu said indifferently. "Sure enough, you ladies from noble families are all whores." Situ Qingyu became irritable and his words became more and more unpleasant. Ding! Abuse points, 5, 2333's voice suddenly appeared in Ning Shu's head. Ning Shu was dumbfounded. What did she do? She was the one who was scolded by Situ Qingyu. How did she abuse him? Ning Shu was very confused, but his hands were not slow. After tying the cloth for Situ Qingyu looked at Ning Shu with a gloomy face. Ning Shu was confused. What was wrong with him? Situ Qingyu stood up. The muscles on his body were bulging, and his entire body was filled with the smell of hormones. "Get out!" Situ Qingyu growled at Yuelan in a low voice, and the whole room shook. Yuelan was so scared that she fell to the ground and looked at Ning Shu with tears in her eyes. "You can leave." Ning Shu Yuelan said calmly. "But miss, if this servant goes out, miss will face this barbarian alone." This servant is afraid that something will happen to Mississippi. Although Yuelan was afraid, she was still determined to stay and accompany Ning Shu. Yuelan shouted at Situ Qingyu, "Let go of my miss and come at me." Yuelan puffed out her chest as she spoke. Ning Shu was speechless. Scram! Situ Qingyu looked at Yuelan with killing intent. "Get out!" Ning Shu said. Yuelan left while crying. After Yuelan left, Situ Qingyu lowered his head and looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked at him indifferently. There was a pair of scissors hidden under the sleeves of his deep robe. Ning Shu had secretly hidden the scissors when he was cutting the cloth. If Situ Qingyu really dared to make a move on her, Ning Shu would not hesitate to stab the scissors into his heart. So what if he was handsome? He was still a rapist even if he was handsome. "I hate young ladies like you the most in my life. In front of others, you look pure and innocent, but behind others, you are vicious and arrogant." Situ Qingyu pinched Ning Shu's chin and said viciously, "So, when I meet a young lady like you, I will first rape and then kill you." Fuck, this guy was a psychopath. He mourned for Mu Yenluo. Although she was raped, she was not killed. Ning Shu's expression did not change. Situ Qingyu looked at Ning Shu and asked, "What do you think I should do to you? Kill and rape?" In the past, it was always rape and then kill. Now that she was the female lead, she naturally had to be special. "Then guess what happened to the young lady who made me kneel and lick her shoes?" Situ Qingyu seemed to want to chat with Ning Shu, but the content of the conversation was not so pleasant. "What do you think Ben will do to her?" Situ Qingyu sat down and looked at Ning Shu with a faint smile, but there was disgust in the depths of his eyes. Ning Shu blinked and said, "It must be some inhumane torture. I threw her into a pack of wolves, and the wolves were fed with drugs in advance. The pack of wolves raped her while tearing her flesh, but I didn't want her to die so quickly. She lived for half a month under the wolves' bodies, and finally died with her body in a bloody mess. When she died, I couldn't even see her arrogant and despotic face. Situ Qingyu looked at Ning Shu. Do you think this punishment is good? Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu was filled with disgust. Situ Qingyu continued to blabber. In summary, Situ Qingyu, who was once a poor boy, was humiliated by the young ladies of noble families. In addition, Situ Qingyu was very tall and handsome, which aroused the desire of these young ladies to conquer him. They even made Situ Qingyu kneel on the ground and bark like a dog to lick his shoes. This caused Situ Qingyu to be traumatized and twisted. Then, when he became successful and famous, he took revenge on these people one by one in cruel and vicious ways. Ning Shu finally understood why Situ Qingyu did not say anything when he caught Mu Yanluo and directly raped her. It turned out that there was such a story. No wonder Situ Qingyu sent Mu Yanluo away without a word when the Lord wanted her. Situ Qingyu hated the young ladies of noble families. Mu Yanluo was the daughter of the Prime Minister of Donghua Nation and had a noble status. When Situ Qingyu saw Mu Yanluo, he vented all his anger on her. However, the female lead's body was so alluring that Situ Qingyu directly imprisoned Mu Yanluo and trapped her in the embroidery house. They had sex almost 24 hours a day. Ning Shu was speechless. Mu Yanluo was completely unjustly implicated. TSK. Sure enough, Situ Qingyu wanted to take revenge on society and women. He was a scumbag who felt that he had been wronged. Situ Qingyu saw Ning Shu's disdainful look and his face darkened. What's with your expression? Are you looking down on me? Do you really think you're a high and mighty young lady? TSK. I didn't say anything. What are you trying to say? Ning Shu shook his head and said, Are you trying to get back at a woman? Ha, get back at a woman. You think too highly of yourself. I heard that you're the most beautiful woman in Donghua Nation. Let me think, what would it be like if the most beautiful woman in Donghua Nation were to be pleasured by me and end up as a promiscuous military prostitute? Situ Qingyu's voice was filled with doubt, but he looked at Ning Shu with malicious eyes. What a perverted lunatic. Ning Shu said expressionlessly, How would I know what it would be like? Try it and you'll know. Situ Qingyu's voice was very evil. He looked at Ning Shu with naked desire and malice. Chapter 127. When Ning Shu saw Situ Qingyu's expression and the deep desire in his eyes, she knew what this guy wanted to do. Not to mention this mission, even Ning Shu herself did not want to roll around with such a lunatic. What do you want to do? Ning Shu looked at Situ Qingyu coldly with a murderous look in his eyes. Situ Qingyu met Ning Shu's eyes and said sarcastically, Don't look at me with such a high and mighty look. Do you believe that I will dig your eyeballs out? Those bitches looked at me like that and they will never be able to see again. TSK, what a sensitive pervert. Why are you asking me? What can a man and a woman do in a room? Situ Qingyu said evilly. You will be fucked by me like a bitch. Ning Shu was speechless. Damn, even the male lead of a pornographic novel spoke so vulgarly. But he was good-looking and had a special charm when he said something only a hooligan would say. Like a bitch? Shen Qingqing sneered. You were also born by a bitch. This idiot hated women so much that he wanted to exterminate them. You have a sharp tongue. I will let you know that you will not have a good ending if you anger me. Situ Qingyu bared his teeth, which reflected a white light. The entire Prime Minister's mansion is my people. Do you think you can escape? Do you think you are invincible just because you have a secret guard? Ning Shu lifted his chin slightly and looked at Situ Qingyu proudly. He said disdainfully, You are just like a bug. You are amazing after climbing to a high position. Since Situ Qingyu cared a lot about those days of being treated badly, Ning Shu's action was to tear open his scars and then sprinkle salt on the wound. She even rubbed it hard twice so that it would be easier for the taste to seep in. Situ Qingyu's eyes turned red at Ning Shu's condescending attitude. His face trembled and he gritted his teeth. You are courting death. Ding. Abuse points, 10. Current abuse points, 15. The sound of 2333 suddenly rang in his head. Ning Shu instantly felt that this was the right move. Situ Qingyu really cared about that past. Even if I die, I still look down on people like you. No wonder those women despise you. It's all because of you. People like you deserve to be bullied. Ning Shu's face was full of disdain. Why don't you blame your mother for giving birth to you? You are courting death. Situ Qingyu's eyes were red as he reached out and grabbed Ning Shu's neck. Ning Shu instantly felt as if his breathing had been cut off. This body was indeed weak. Mu Yenluo, you've successfully infuriated me. Situ Qingyu clenched his fist. He felt that he could break this thin neck with a gentle pinch. A life would end in his hands. This feeling made Situ Qingyu feel infatuated and carefree. Ning Shu felt that it was difficult to breathe. He took out the scissors that he had hidden and quickly slit Situ Qingyu's wrist. In an instant, the skin and flesh split open and blood gushed out. Situ Qingyu was stunned. Ning Shu kicked Situ Qingyu's crotch. I'm going to play with your penis today. Ning Shu used all the strength in this body to kick, but it didn't seem to have any effect. Situ Qingyu only groaned and didn't show any expression of pain. Ning Shu, fuck, how weak is this body? Situ Qingyu looked at Ning Shu indifferently as if he was looking at a dead man. The wound that was cut by the scissors was dripping blood. Ning Shu didn't think twice and used the divine dragon tail whip to trip Situ Qingyu, but Situ Qingyu didn't move at all. Ning Shu felt that he was struggling before death. Fuck, her fighting skills were completely useless. It was all because of this body. It was so weak. I've decided. I won't kill you. I want to see how you noble ladies will look when you fall in love with me. Crying and begging for pleasure. Situ Qingyu's face revealed a convulsive smile, cold and cruel. Ning Shu breathed a sigh of relief. Damn, at least the female lead halo was useful. If she was cannon fodder, she would have been killed by Situ Qingyu. Now, Situ Qingyu wanted her to fall in love with him and then be abandoned by him. Then, she would be in so much pain that she wished she was dead. Now, Situ Qingyu didn't care about physical torture. He wanted to torture his opponent mentally. Ning Shu immediately raised her chin and said, why would this lady like a lowly person like you? Are you kidding? You're just a bug. Ding, abuse points 5. Current abuse points 20. Ning Shu, huh? 2333 came out to make her presence known again. Damn it, she did not even make a sound when Situ Qingyu grabbed her by the neck just now. Don't test my patience. Situ Qingyu clenched his fist quietly. His hand that was cut by Ning Shu bled even more, forming a pool of blood on the ground. Situ Qingyu snorted coldly and turned to leave. When he reached the door, he kicked it, and the other door also fell to the ground. As soon as Situ Qingyu left, Ning Shu's entire body relaxed. She moved her neck. Fuck, it was so painful from Situ Qingyu's grip. However, not being raped by Situ Qingyu was her greatest achievement. At least she got 20 abuse points. These abuse points were just rubbing salt on the wound. There were 7 hardships in life: birth, old age, illness, death, resentment, separation, and not being able to get it. There was nothing more painful than not being able to get it. Situ Qingyu wanted her to fall in love with him and then torture her. Ning Shu was going to give him a taste of his own medicine. The problem was, Ning Shu had no idea how to do it. 2333, are you there? Can you give me some advice? Shen Qingqing asked. How do I make Situ Qingyu fall in love with me? After you have sex with him, he will naturally fall in love with you, 2333 said. Ning Shu was speechless. What was the female lead's body? Could men fall in love with her after having sex? Was it a masterpiece? Ning Shu gave up on this plan. She was not suitable for seducing others. Besides, wasn't this cheating on their feelings? Ning Shu did not have any feelings for these men. Why would she hurt herself by seducing these men? She might as well find a sore spot and step on it with all her might. Then, the abuse value would go up. For example, Situ Qingyu was arrogant and self-abased. He cared most about women looking down on him, so Ning Shu used all her strength to mock him. Miss, are you okay? I'm so sorry. Yulan wailed as she ran into the room. She saw Ning Shu sitting on a stool with her legs crossed, as if nothing had happened. Yulan thought that when she walked in, she would see a messy and torn piece of clothing. Then, the young miss would lie on the bed with nothing left to live for. It was completely different from what she had imagined. Yulan's wailing stopped immediately. She was like a duck being strangled. Chapter 128. Yulan was dumbfounded. Ning Shu asked, Miss, are you all right? What do you think happened to me? Ning Shu said angrily. Yulan's face suddenly showed an expression of relief. She patted her chest and said, It's good that Miss is fine. It's good that you are fine. Ning Shu said, Let's go get something to eat. I'm a little hungry. Miss, everything in the Prime Minister's mansion has been taken away. There is no food in the kitchen at all. Yulan said with a sad face. Yulan was a girl of 13 or 14 years old. She had a baby face. When she held her face, her whole face wrinkled into a thin bun. Situ Qingyu was really ruthless. Did he want to starve her to death? Then let's go to a restaurant. Ning Shu waved his hand, looking very heroic. I'll take you to eat something delicious. Yulan looked at Ning Shu with a bitter face. We are surrounded by guards in all directions. We can't even leave the embroidery building. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu picked up the spoon hanging on his chest without thinking. However, his chest was too big. Ning Shu took off his clothes and took out the whistle from his deep cleavage. In his previous life, Ning Shu did not expect to have such a big chest. He felt that he had no regrets in life. Ning Shu blew the whistle. It was melodious and very pleasant to listen to. After blowing for a long time, Ning Shu's cheeks were sore, but the secret guards did not appear. Ning Shu was speechless. Did this guy run away? He was definitely not reliable. What should he do now? Was he going to starve to death? Ning Shu and Yulan looked at each other. Ning Shu coughed and said, Is there a dog hole nearby? Let's go out and look for food. Yulan looked at Ning Shu and said hesitantly, Miss has a precious body, how can you crawl through a dog hole? It's fine. Your miss can do anything. Isn't it just going through a dog hole? Ning Shu said without a care. As long as he could achieve his goal, there was nothing he couldn't do. Miss, this servant is a pitiful Mississippi. She is a golden branch and a jade leaf, yet she has to do such a thing. Yulan howled again. Ning Shu's face darkened. Stop howling. Where's the dog hole? Ning Shu tied up his hair. Too complicated a bun was very inconvenient. Then, he said to Yulan, Let's go. Yulan had been looking at Ning Shu with a guilty and distressed expression. It's all because this servant didn't take good care of Mississippi. This servant has failed master's instructions. Ning Shu was speechless. He felt that this girl was thinking too much. Did she look so pitiful? Yulan brought Ning Shu to the desolate backyard of the Prime Minister's residence. She pushed aside the withered grass at the foot of the wall, revealing a dog hole in the wall. Ning Shu looked at Yulan. How do you know there's a dog hole here? Have you crawled through it? Miss, how can you say that about this servant? Yulan looked at Ning Shu with tears in her eyes. Ning Shu, what did I say? This servant is Mrs. Servant. How can I crawl through a dog hole? This servant walks through the main door. Yulan defended her dignity. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu crawled out of the dog hole with difficulty. Her chest was almost stuck. If Yulan hadn't pushed her with all her strength, she probably wouldn't have been able to get out. This was the first time she realized that having big breasts wasn't perfect. Ning Shu rubbed her chest. It hurt so much. Yulan crawled out of the dog hole easily. Seeing Ning Shu grimacing in pain, she hurried over to help Ning Shu brush off the dust and grass on her body. Miss, why do you have to humiliate yourself like this? Master will be heartbroken if he finds out, Yulan said. Ning Shu didn't care at all. How was this humiliating? Mu Yanluo in the plot was the one who was humiliating herself. She humiliated herself, and men humiliated her too. Moreover, it wasn't a man. Look, this is the noble and beautiful miss of a big family. How does it feel to crawl through a dog hole? Situ Qingyu's voice suddenly rang out. Ning Shu looked around but didn't see Situ Qingyu anywhere. Miss, he's up there. Yulan's teeth were chattering. Ning Shu looked up and saw Situ Qingyu standing on the wall in a blue robe. His long hair fluttered in the wind and he looked very pretentious. Ning Shu brushed his messy hair and said indifferently, "It feels very convenient." Very good. Humph. Situ Qingyu snorted coldly. Then, he opened his arms and flew in front of Ning Shu. He really looked like a birdman. Ning Shu took a step back. Situ Qingyu stood in front of Ning Shu and said coldly, "You're very bold. How dare you sneak out of the mansion without my permission? Tell me, how should I punish you?" Ning Shu pulled Yulan back a step and said, "Rape first and then kill first and then rape." Situ Qingyu's face twitched. He said in a low voice, "In your heart, I'm a big sex fiend." Ning Shu nodded without hesitation. "You're definitely the perverted sex fiend." Situ Qingyu sneered. "If I don't do anything, I'll be unworthy of this title." As Situ Qingyu spoke, he reached out to grab Ning Shu. Ning Shu shouted, "Look at my hidden weapon." Bah! Ning Shu directly spat at Situ Qingyu's face. Then, he pulled Yulan and quickly ran away. Situ Qingyu moved his body slightly and dodged Ning Shu's hidden weapon. His eyes were red as he watched Ning Shu run away. "Miss, please stop. I can't run anymore." Yulan looked like she was about to stop breathing. Ning Shu stopped and panted. He looked around and did not see Situ Qingyu's figure chasing after him. "Miss, it's really been hard on you." Yulan had not recovered from Ning Shu's fierce spitting. "Miss is gentle and noble. Now, you've become like this. Master will be so heartbroken if he knows." "Alright, don't be heartbroken. Where are we going to eat now?" Ning Shu saw the buns in the bun shop's drawer and drooled. "Boss, give me 2 steamers of buns." Go, beggars, get lost." The boss of the bun shop drove Ning Shu and Yulan away. Yulan immediately raised her eyebrows. "How dare you be so rude to my Mississippi? If you don't get lost, I'll beat you to death, beggars." The boss of the bun shop unceremoniously roared at Ning Shu and Yulan. His attitude was as bad as it could be. Ning Shu was puzzled. She was now the female lead. Wherever she went, there would be people helping her. Why was the boss of the bun shop so fierce to her? Why did it feel like they had a grudge? "Do you know who our miss is?" Yulan wiped the dust on Ning Shu's face with a handkerchief. She pushed her hair aside and showed Ning Shu's face. She asked the boss, look clearly who our miss is. The boss of the bun shop widened his eyes and said, I don't care who you are. Buy buns if you have money. Get lost if you don't. Ning Shu was speechless. Forget it. Let's go. Ning Shu looked at the increasing number of people around them. The female lead had a constitution of accidents. Something would happen wherever she went and then attract attention. Chapter 129. Ning Shu didn't want to fight to the death with this bun shop owner. It was completely meaningless. There was more than one bun shop. However, Yuelan acted as if the bun shop owner had dug up her ancestral grave. She fought with the owner and insisted on defending her dignity as a young lady. Ning Shu didn't know whether to be moved or to knock her out and drag her away. You two thieves, how dare you steal my buns and yell at me, little beggars. The bun shop owner looked at Ning Shu and Yuelan, the two women. She rolled her eyes and slandered Ning Shu and Yuelan for stealing her buns. Yuelan's eyes widened. You're talking nonsense. When did the young lady and I steal your buns? Shame on you. Ning Shu still didn't know what this shop owner was thinking. Ning Shu was a pig. Ning Shu thought about whether she should sit on the ground and cry. What's going on? A dignified and domineering voice sounded. When Ning Shu heard this voice, her whole body trembled. A person who even had background music when he spoke was definitely the male lead. Ning Shu looked in the direction of the voice with a pair of myopic eyes. She saw a man with a feathered crown sitting on the back of a horse. He was wearing a brocade robe and a translucent white jade pendant on his waist. He held the reins in his hand. He was a still picture of a handsome man. He was handsome and well-dressed, elegant and distinguished. This humble one greets the regent. The bun shop owner immediately knelt on the ground and kowtowed to the regent. The prince regent was that prince. Ning Shu was speechless. She was really unlucky. She just came out to get some food. She didn't even take out the money and the bun shop owner chased her and Yuelan away. She even called them little beggars and accused them of stealing buns. Now that she met this prince, Ning Shu guessed that the next plot should be a hero saving the damsel in distress. The regent Luo Junyan. What's going on? Luo Junyan turned over and dismounted from the horse. His movements were noble and elegant. When Yulan saw that someone was in charge, and that this person's status was not low, she quickly said, this snobbish boss wrongly accused this servant and young miss of stealing her buns. Miss? Luo Junyan looked at Ning Shu, who was filthy and had messy hair. Which family are you from? My miss is. Yuelan wanted to speak, but Ning Shu covered her mouth. Ning Shu coughed and pinched his neck. I'm not a Mississippi. Ning Shu not only raised her voice, but also looked at Luo Junyan with a pair of myopic eyes. Since she was already so unkempt, she might as well pretend to be a little beggar. If she had a pair of clear eyes, wouldn't she be exposed? We'll be leaving first. Ning Shu pulled Yulan and hurriedly left. Wait a minute. Luo Junyan stopped Ning Shu and said, you haven't even gotten to the bottom of this matter. Are you willing to bear the crime of theft? Ning Shu wanted to say that she didn't care at all. She didn't steal any buns at all. The male lead was really too free to care about the buns. The attraction between the male and female leads was undeniable. The plot always brought them together. Tell me, did the two of them steal your buns? Luo Junyan looked at the bun shop owner indifferently. Under Luo Junyan's aura, the owner trembled and couldn't even speak clearly. Ning Shu completely understood. This bun shop owner was the NPC that allowed her and Luo Junyan to meet, the NPC that allowed Luo Junyan to save the damsel in distress. Ning Shu's heart went numb. The plot was indeed powerful. She hadn't been sent to Luo Junyan by Situ Qingyu yet. She had snuck out to look for something to eat, and in the end, she met the male lead. No wonder Mu Yenluo couldn't escape these men for 3 lifetimes. Haha. I want to hear the truth. There are so many people here. If you dare to lie, you can go to jail. Luo Junyan's voice was very authoritative, making people want to submit to him. The bun shop owner knelt on the ground, his face pale. He stuttered and said, "They didn't steal the buns. This commoner is framing them." You're really bad. I knew it. Yuelon was full of contempt for the shop owner. Ning Shu said, "Now the truth is out. Miss, how do you think we should punish this black-hearted shop owner?" Ning Shu's eyes widened, but she didn't say anything. "Miss, don't be afraid. I'll make the decision for you," Luo Junyan said calmly. When he said this, he was very tall and gave people a sense of security that they could rely on. It was very tempting. Ning Shu didn't feel anything. She said to the bun shop owner in a sharp voice, "Pack up all the buns. Yuelon, keep the buns and let's go." "Okay." Yuelon hurriedly put away all the buns in the drawer. "Oh my, young lady, I'm just running a small business." The bun shop owner frowned and looked at Ning Shu pitifully. "I took a fancy to your buns because I think highly of you. You falsely accused me of stealing your buns. You should be happy that I didn't send you to prison." Ning Shu didn't have the kindness and tolerance that a female lead should have. She was completely like a dog relying on its master's power, arrogant and despotic. Sigh. The bun shop owner sighed and looked like he was suffering but couldn't say anything. It made Ning Shu feel that she was still a big villain, wearing the female lead's skin and courting death. In the plot, these men all fell in love with the kind female lead. After a torturous relationship, they were all charmed by the female lead. Now that she had become so vicious and arrogant, would the male lead still love her? Ning Shu turned her head, wanting to see Luo Junyan's expression. Disgust? Contempt? In the end, she met Luo Junyan's half-smile and amused gaze. Ning Shu clutched her chest and almost vomited blood. She was already humiliating herself like this. She couldn't be a kind female lead at all. Was this idiot's eyes covered with shit? "Miss, the buns are packed." Yuelon took away all the buns. Yuelon and Ning Shu were both holding buns in their hands. Ning Shu was still eating a bun. Her face was dirty, and coupled with the way she was wolfing down her food, she looked extremely ugly. "Miss, are you leaving just like that?" Luo Junyan stopped Ning Shu again. Ning Shu was very impatient and said coldly, "What do you want?" "I'm your savior. You're leaving just like that?" Luo Junyan frowned, his aura domineering. Ning Shu thought for a moment and took out a bun for Luo Junyan to repay him for helping her out. However, the bun accidentally fell on the ground and rolled twice. Ning Shu smiled apologetically and hurriedly picked up the bun on the ground. She wiped it on her clothes and stuffed it into Luo Junyan's mouth, saying, "Take this bun as your reward for helping me." The bun fell on the ground and then rubbed against his dusty clothes. Luo Junyan hurriedly spat out the bun in his mouth, feeling disgusted. Chapter 130. Luo Junyan frowned. "No one has ever treated me like this. Woman, you've successfully pissed me off." When Luo Junyan spoke, his mouth tasted like a stuffed bun. Ning Shu and Yuelon took a step back at the same time, distancing themselves from him. "Then what do you want? Could it be that you want this little girl to repay you with her body?" Ning Shu pulled Yuelon away. Luo Junyan looked at the backs of the two women and muttered, "Interesting, interesting." He was the Prince Regent. Women would throw themselves at him when they saw him, but this woman had such an attitude. She wanted to welcome him but rejected him. Welon ate the bun and saw that Ning Shu's expression was not good. She said, "Miss, that person is really a good person. He even helped us out." "Good person?" Ning Shu sneered in her heart and said, "Eat your bun." Luo Junyan was not a good person. In the plot, he saw Mu Yen Luo at the Prime Minister's residence and was shocked. He asked Situ Qingyu for Mu Yen Luo. At that time, Mu Yen Luo and Situ Qingyu had already slept together. When she was given to Luo Junyan, she was already pregnant. However, it was too early for Mu Yen Luo to notice. With a beauty in his hands, he wanted to have a taste. Luo Junyan did not care about Mu Yen Luo's dead heart and the pain of being betrayed by the person she loved. He immediately slept with Mu Yen Luo, only to find out that she was no longer a virgin. He immediately pulled out heartlessly. It was an extreme insult to Mu Yen Luo and he even whipped her. To Luo Junyan, he was a prince with a noble status and had slept with many women. In the end, Mu Yen Luo ended up being called a chastity demon. It was a disgrace. Luo Junyan continued to torment Mu Yen Luo. Luo Junyan felt that Mu Yen Luo was an unclean and slutty woman. To think that he had been infatuated with Mu Yen Luo's beauty. In the end, all he got was a broken shoe. Luo Junyan never thought that Mu Yen Luo, a woman, could not control her own fate. She was raped by Situ Qingyu and did not even have the strength to resist. Luo Junyan would only blame Mu Yen Luo for losing her virginity. His pride as a man made Luo Junyan furious, and he vented all his anger on Mu Yen Luo. Later, when he found out that Mu Yen Luo was pregnant with a bastard's child, he was so angry that he wanted to die. He immediately fucked Mu Yen Luo cruelly, causing her to have a miscarriage. Luo Junyan did not stop his assault on Mu Yen Luo. Instead, he stared at the blood and became even more excited. He felt an unprecedented excitement. It was a pity that Mu Yen Luo had suffered. She had lost her child and was raped by someone else. She couldn't be more miserable and had almost died. But the female lead would be fine no matter how much he tortured her. The prince carried the unconscious Mu Yen Luo and roared at the imperial physicians, "You must cure her. If you can't, you will be buried with her." The female lead's body was like a poison. As long as they had sex, a man's heart would only have the female lead. After having sex with other women, they would lose interest. They were just short of impotence. Although Mu Yen Luo had been cured, her heart was already riddled with holes. She had been betrayed by her lover, lost her child, and was raped by another man. Mu Yen Luo was a woman from ancient times and valued her chastity very much. But fate was cruel. Mu Yen Luo hated Luo Junyan to the core and started a torturous love story. But Luo Junyan was infatuated with the female lead's body. Moreover, he always chose to do it when Mu Yen Luo was on her period. He was infatuated with the feeling of fighting a bloody battle. It was as if he had opened the door to a new world. In terms of perversion, even a general could not compare to the prince. Therefore, when Ning Shu heard Yulan say that the prince was a good person, he almost vomited blood. Both of them were rapists. How could they be considered good people? Basically, every time Mu Yen Luo met a man, she would be tortured to a pulp. But the man was infatuated with Mu Yen Luo's body. What a filthy world. It felt like the entire world was filled with hormones. Ning Shu ate 5 buns in a row and burped. Yulan asked Ning Shu, "Miss, where should we go now?" "Go back." Ning Shu hammered her chest. Damn it, she felt like she was choking on a bun. She had to hurry back to the Prime Minister residence to drink water. Yulan looked at Ning Shu in astonishment. "Miss, we managed to escape with great difficulty. Why do we have to go back? Miss is born with a countenance as beautiful as a flower and as beautiful as the moon. Going back is like entering a wolf's den. This servant is determined not to let Miss return." Ning Shu said, your miss feels very thirsty. Let's go back to the Prime Minister residence to drink water. Yulan sighed in melancholy and followed Ning Shu back to the Prime Minister residence. If I had known that Miss had suffered so much, this servant would have advised Miss to leave with Master. Ning Shu thought that even if she left with Prime Minister Mu, they would still be separated. The sound of horse hooves mixed with neat footsteps came from afar and sounded on the street. Ning Shu was slightly dazed and saw Situ Qingyu riding a horse with a group of soldiers behind him. Situ Qingyu sat on the horse and looked down at Ning Shu. Seeing that Ning Shu had a lot of buns in her arms, he waved to the guards behind him and said indifferently, "Send this general's captive back." Immediately, several imperial bodyguards prepared to step forward and capture Ning Shu and Yulan. Ning Shu's tiger-like body immediately trembled as she unruly and tyrannically shouted, "Are you blind? You actually dare to touch this young miss? Do you believe that this young miss will chop off your hands? That's right. Are you blind?" Yulan immediately chimed in. After being yelled at by Ning Shu, the guards did not dare to go forward to capture Ning Shu for a moment and looked at Situ Qingyu. When Situ Qingyu saw Ning Shu's arrogant and despotic look, disgust flashed in his eyes. His tone was mocking and teasing. "Miss Mu, do you want to ride with this general?" As Situ Qingyu spoke, he extended his hand and invited Ning Shu to get on his horse. Ning Shu must be out of her mind to ride on the same horse as this person. Ning Shu said indifferently, "This miss will walk on her own." Ha ha ha. Situ Qingyu smiled indifferently. "In that case, you can run with the group. Aren't you very fast? What if you can't keep up with the group?" Situ Qingyu pointed at Yulan. "This girl beside you will become a military prostitute." Mississippi, Yulan's voice trembled as she looked at Ning Shu with tears in her eyes. Ning Shu immediately said, "Don't worry, your miss can keep up with the group. It's fine. Men, tie her up." Situ Qingyu smiled at Ning Shu, revealing his white teeth. "This general will personally lead her." Ning Shu was speechless. What was wrong with her? A guard took out a rope and tied it around Ning Shu's wrist. He tightened it and tied a knot before handing the other end of the rope to Situ Qingyu. "You can run behind this general. If you can't run fast enough, this general can only drag you along." "That would be a pity for your porcelain skin," Situ Qingyu said indifferently as if he was saying that the weather today was not very good. Chapter 131. When Ning Shu heard that this bastard was going to drag her along, she ran behind with her own 2 legs. If she couldn't run fast enough, she would be dragged along. If she rubbed against the ground, she might even lose her life, not to mention her skin. This was definitely revenge for her spitting on him. As a general, being spat on, even with Situ Qingyu's overflowing self-esteem, he would still kill her. She was wrong. How could Luo Junyan compare to Situ Qingyu's perverted personality? There was always someone better. Situ Qingyu's mentality was definitely more twisted than Luo Junyan's. "It's not too late to beg for mercy, Miss Mu. You don't seem to realize your status. You're no longer the daughter of the high and mighty Prime Minister, but my captive. I can decide your life and death, so don't do anything that makes me unhappy." Situ Qingyu's pupils trembled slightly. It was obvious that he was not as calm as he appeared to be. He was probably angry inside. Ning Shu hated this man to death. So what if he was capable? He only knew how to bully women and children. What was so great about him? Ning Shu called out to 2333 in his heart. 2333, give me a gun. I want to kill this bastard. Ning Shu, moi, you have a gun. 2333's voice rang in Ning Shu's head. Ning Shu was very happy. Then give it to me quickly. I can't stand this bastard. Sure, 2000 points. You don't have any points, so you can't exchange for it, 2333 said directly. Ning Shu gritted his teeth and said word by word, I'll pay on credit. Sorry, you can't use firearms or similar firearms. If you take out something that transcends time, it will cause chaos in space and affect the stability of the entire plane. 2333 guided him patiently. Your role is to repair the plane, not destroy it. Understand? Understand your ass. Ning Shu almost vomited blood. Ning Shu wanted to ask 2333 about other things, but suddenly a voice rang out. General Situ, what are you doing? When Ning Shu heard this voice, he immediately curled his lips. However, Yuelan who was beside him was happy. Ning Shu said excitedly in a low voice, Miss, it's that prince from before. We are saved. Ning Shu glanced at her. You're too naive. Luo Junyan rode over. Seeing Ning Shu's hands tied up, he raised his eyebrows and asked Situ Qingyu, what did she do? Greetings, Your Highness. This female slave is my captive. She sneaked out of the residence and I've captured her, Situ Qingyu said to Luo Junyan in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. Luo Junyan narrowed his eyes slightly and said lightly, since she is a female slave, how about you give her to me? His Majesty has just conquered Donghua Nation. It is time to pacify the people. General, you should not do such a cruel thing. Just give her to me. A murderous aura suddenly surged from Situ Qingyu's body. He was like a hedgehog that had encountered danger. The spikes on his body stood up. This is my female slave. I have no intention of giving her to you, Your Highness. Luo Junyan frowned imperceptibly. A huge sense of loss surged in his heart. Suddenly, he wanted this female slave very much. This feeling was very strange, but it was very strong. In addition, Situ Qingyu's attitude towards him was also very noble. He, Luo Junyan, was the regent. This butcher who only knew how to kill dared to disrespect him. This made Luo Junyan lose face. All the more he wanted this female slave. Ning Shu watched from the side. He thought that she was going to be disfigured. In the end, Luo Junyan jumped out. As expected, the female lead was blessed with luck. Her body was her capital. Without this seductive body, how could she be the female lead? Situ Qingyu refused to budge. Luo Junyan was even more frustrated. He wanted to grab Ning Shu and leave. However, when he saw the guards behind Situ Qingyu, Luo Junyan calmed down and said coldly, since General Situ is unwilling to give her up, then forget it. After saying this, Luo Junyan felt even more disappointed. This feeling made him very uncomfortable. This feeling was very sudden and made him very uncomfortable. It seemed that this feeling would not disappear after he got this female slave. Are you willing to go with me? Ning Shu asked. Situ Qingyu also looked at Ning Shu. Situ Qingyu pursed his lips and looked at Ning Shu with red eyes. Ning Shu also had a voice in his heart telling him to go with this prince. This prince would protect her. Go with him. He was a good person. He even helped to teach the greedy bun shop owner a lesson. Ning Shu's heart skipped a beat. This was the plot. From the Prime Minister's residence to the Prince's residence. There was a slight change in the plot. Situ Qingyu did not hand her over to Luo Junyan, but gave her the choice. Deep down, he wanted her to go with the prince. Ning Shu sneered in his heart. You want me to go with Luo Junyan? I will not go with him. Ning Shu said, I am the general's female slave. Of course, I will follow the general. Situ Qingyu and Luo Junyan were stunned. Situ Qingyu's face flashed with surprise. He thought that Ning Shu would go with the regent. Disappointment appeared on Luo Junyan's face. He wanted to say something, but Ning Shu said directly, I am the general's woman in life and the general's ghost in death. Situ Qingyu's eyes trembled. He was more confused. Luo Junyan's face was cold. He pulled the reins and turned to leave. He even turned back to look at Ning Shu. His gaze was strange. After Luo Junyan left, Situ Qingyu looked at Ning Shu and asked, "Is what you said just now true?" Ning Shu rolled his eyes at him and asked, "What?" Situ Qingyu's face instantly twisted. "I wanted to untie you, but now it seems that there is no need. Let's go." Situ Qingyu pulled the reins. Ning Shu could only follow. "Hurry up." Situ Qingyu pulled the reins. Ning Shu stumbled forward and hurriedly sped up. Ning Shu was glad that Situ Qingyu did not let the horse run. If that was the case, her 2 legs would not be able to outrun the horse's 4 legs. Ning Shu walked back to the Prime Minister's residence with 2 legs. Yuelan, who was beside him, looked at Ning Shu with heartache. She looked at Situ Qingyu, who was sitting on the horse, with disgust. When they reached the entrance of the Prime Minister's residence, Situ Qingyu got off the horse and walked to Ning Shu. He untied the reins on Ning Shu's wrists and said sarcastically, "Miss Mu really knows how to seduce men. You just went out of the residence and seduced the Prince Regent to bring you back to the residence." He said it as if he was jealous. TSK. Ning Shu moved his wrist, which was not circulating blood. Situ Qingyu saw that Ning Shu ignored him and went straight into the Prime Minister's residence. He walked over and grabbed Ning Shu's wrist. His other hand pressed against the wall behind Ning Shu. It was an extremely ambiguous position. Chapter 132. Situ Qingyu's body exuded a strong aura of hostility. After the cabinet, he almost hugged Ning Shu in his arms. When he looked down at her from above, it made her heart beat wildly. Ning Shu, oh, this position. She didn't expect to be flirted with as the female lead. But could it be someone else? She was flirted with by a psychopath. She felt very depressed. Situ Qingyu was indeed an expert at controlling people's emotions. He had been so cruel just now, tying her up and dragging her away. Now, he was acting in such an ambiguous and domineering manner. It was so hot and cold that one couldn't control it at all. But Ning Shu only wanted to have a gun and shoot this guy in the head. Situ Qingyu said faintly, his tone still at a loss. "Is what you said before true? You're my man. Even in life and death." "It's fake," Ning Shu said without thinking. Situ Qingyu's expression instantly turned ugly. Ding! Abuse points, 10. Current abuse points, 30. 2,333 reported. Ning Shu was stunned for a moment. Seeing Situ Qingyu's hurt expression, if it was the female lead, her heart would probably ache. After all, the female lead was so hot and kind. Ning Shu said, "Why would I like a person who kills people like scything flax? You have a dark mind. I'd rather like a dog than a person like you." Situ Qingyu looked at Ning Shu maliciously. "You're lighting the fire." Was the next sentence, "You're responsible for extinguishing the fire you started?" "Look, there's an idiot over there." Ning Shu pointed behind Situ Qingyu. Situ Qingyu frowned and looked at Ning Shu. "There really is an idiot." "Turn around and look," Ning Shu said with certainty. Situ Qingyu turned his head. Ning Shu immediately crawled under his arm and ran away with Yuelan. Situ Qingyu was speechless. Ning Shu and Yuelan ran back to the embroidery building. Yuelan panted as she placed the steamed buns in her arms on the table. Ning Shu asked, "Miss, why didn't you go with that prince and return to this wolf's den?" "Miss, this servant really doesn't understand what Miss is thinking. What's the difference? One was a wolf's den while the other was a tiger's den." Ning Shu drank a large cup of water and picked up a bun to eat. He said, "Your miss has her reasons." Pine. A black shadow jumped in through the window and rolled on the ground twice. The black shadow rolled in front of Ning Shu's feet and Ning Shu kicked him twice. The secret guard hurriedly got up from the ground and picked up the bun on the table to eat. Wearing black clothes in broad daylight with a scarf around his neck, there must be something wrong with his head. When I blew the whistle, where did you run off to? Didn't you hear it? Ning Shu said grumpily. But seeing the shadow guards appear, Ning Shu felt a sense of security. She never realized that the female lead could be so fragile. The secret guard stuffed the steamed buns into his mouth and said, I heard it. I was healing my injuries and I saw that Miss was fine, so I didn't appear. What kind of secret guard was this? He wasn't handsome but was so willful. He ran faster than anyone when fighting and immediately appeared when eating. What was the use of raising this kind of secret guard? Stop eating. What will we eat after you finish eating? Yulan, put away the steamed buns. Ning Shu said grumpily. You're a secret guard. You can't even get food for yourself. You even came to steal the food that we two weak women worked so hard to get. You're shameless. Ning Shu was speechless at this unreliable secret guard. The secret guard swallowed the steamed bun and covered his face with the black scarf, revealing a square forehead and a pair of eyes. Ning Shu felt very anxious when he saw this. He felt that this unimportant cannon fodder looked really casual. Miss, if there's anything, just blow the whistle. I'll appear immediately. Secret guard Ning Shu said. The moment he opened his mouth, there was the smell of leeks. Ning Shu was speechless. She had also blown it. The last time she wanted the shadow guard to get her and Yulan some food, she was almost out of breath. This guy didn't even come out. It was clear that this shadow guard was not reliable at all. Ning Shu thought for a moment, then took out a silver note and said, take this money and send some food to Yulan and me every day. Also, go buy food. Don't wear black clothes anymore. Go, I don't want to see you now. Ning Shu waved his hand. The secret guard stuffed the silver note into his arms. Ning Shu said again, go to the bank to exchange for some broken silver. Don't take the silver note directly to buy things. The secret guard nodded and said, I understand. Ning Shu, he felt that this guy was unreliable. The secret guard jumped out of the window again and disappeared. In the evening, Situ Qingyu came over and prepared a large table of delicacies for Ning Shu. Ning Shu was vigilant. One who was unaccountably solicitous was hiding evil intentions. After eating it, would you want to roll around with her? Bah, this old lady despises you. What haven't I eaten before? Situ Qingyu looked down at Ning Shu and said as if he was giving alms, this is the food I prepared for you. Throw away your steamed bun. Ning Shu shook her head. I still like steamed buns. I used to eat too many delicacies, but now I've changed my taste. I like to eat steamed buns. Situ Qingyu sneered. Is it because of the regent that you like steamed buns so much? I heard that the regent helped you out, so you like to eat steamed buns now. Ning Shu, this brain hole, this logic, no one else, she ate steamed buns purely because they were free. When Situ Qingyu saw Ning Shu's silence, it was obvious that she had acquiesced to his words. His eyes turned red and he roared, Mu Yanluo, how dare you look down on this general? You have to eat today whether you want to or not. Ding, abuse points, 5. Current abuse points, 35. 2333, Ning Shu was not used to the system having such a strong presence at all. The previous system was silent from beginning to end, but the updated system kept popping up from time to time, which annoyed Ning Shu to no end. As if sensing Ning Shu's annoyance, 2333 felt wronged and said, I'm letting you know the progress of the mission. How can you dislike me so much? I'm so sad, sob sob sob. Ning Shu heard the system's cries and shuddered. Fuck, this system is so cheap. Ning Shu basically did not do anything, and then the abuse points reached 35. These abuse points were all caused by Situ Qingyu's own self-abuse. He was sensitive and had an inferiority complex. Any action could make Situ Qingyu feel uncomfortable, and any action could touch the darkness in his heart. TSK, TSK, TSK. Sure enough, he couldn't be the male lead if there was nothing wrong with him. Ning Shu raised her chin and looked at the dishes on the table. She said disdainfully, "This is nothing. I used to eat these every day, and I've long been sick of them. Now that you're taking these out, it's a disgrace." Situ Qingyu's face was livid. He looked at Ning Shu and said maliciously, "Every time I see you acting so high and mighty, I want to trample on your pride and make you crawl under my feet." He had an inferiority complex, but he couldn't bear to see others being proud. Chapter 133. In the end, Situ Qingyu was so angry that he flipped the table. The dishes and plates on the table fell to the ground. Broken porcelain and all kinds of vegetable soup were mixed together. It was a mess. Damn, so what if you're strong? I can still flip the table if I master a peerless martial art. Guard this courtyard well. Don't send food inside. Situ Qingyu roared at the guard at the door, then turned to Ning Shu and said coldly, "Since you don't want to eat, don't eat in the future." Ning Shu snorted proudly and looked at Situ Qingyu with contempt and pity. Situ Qingyu's aura became violent and he said maliciously, "You don't want your eyes anymore. How dare you look at me like that?" Situ Qingyu sneered and said, "It said that you can get a woman's heart if you get her body. Don't be so proud now. When I get on top of you, you'll cry and beg me to get on top of you." Ning Shu was speechless. Situ Qingyu walked toward Ning Shu with lust in his eyes. Obviously, he wanted to rape Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked at Situ Qingyu without changing his expression and said indifferently, "You smell like leftovers." When Situ Qingyu flipped the table just now, the soup spilled on him. Situ Qingyu's face was livid. "Mu Yenluo, you've challenged my patience time and time again. I'll make you pay the price." With that, he turned and left. Ning Shu curled her lips. She was really an extremely arrogant person, but at the same time, she was also an extremely self-abased person. Situ Qingyu didn't let anyone send food to the embroidery building. Sure enough, no one sent food in for several days. Ning Shu and Yuelon ate steamed buns every day. Sometimes, the square-faced shadow guard would bring in some food. Ning Shu's life was comfortable. Situ Qingyu thought that Mu Yenluo would come back to beg him, but she didn't come for several days. Seeing Ning Shu alive and kicking, Situ Qingyu sneered. This woman still had a shadow guard. Situ Qingyu said maliciously, "If I kill your secret guard, what will you rely on?" Ning Shu chuckled and refused to talk to the lunatic. Situ Qingyu's expression turned cold. "I really don't know what you're so proud of. You're no longer the Prime Minister's daughter or the noble lady of Donghua Nation. You're my captive, my slave. Your life is in my hands. What you should do now is to please me and offer me your body instead of disobeying me like this. The consequences may not be something you can bear." Situ Qingyu looked at Ning Shu from above. Ning Shu was speechless. He felt too good about himself. Situ Qingyu saw that Ning Shu was stubborn and wanted to force himself on Ning Shu. Ning Shu blew the whistle without hesitation. A shadow guard in black jumped in through the window. Situ Qingyu looked at the guard coldly. "If I don't kill you today, I won't be Situ." The two of them fought together. This time, the guard didn't run away first. Instead, he fought with Situ Qingyu and used his true abilities. It seemed that he was evenly matched with Situ Qingyu. "General, the regent is here. He's waiting for you in the front hall." The guard outside the door shouted to Situ Qingyu. Situ Qingyu was slightly stunned. The shadow guard took advantage of this and slapped Situ Qingyu. Situ Qingyu groaned and covered his chest. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked coldly at the shadow guard and Ning Shu. Very good, very good. The shadow guard jumped out of the window and ran away. Situ Qingyu glanced at Ning Shu and turned to leave. Ning Shu patted her chest and said, I've finally dodged a calamity. Miss, let's get out of here. It's too dangerous. Yuelan said with a pale face. Ning Shu let out a long breath. After a while, a maid came over to Ning Shu and said, the general asked you to go to the front hall. His Highness wants to see you. The general said that you should dress sloppily. Luo Junyan wanted to see her. Dress sloppily? Yuelan, come and help me dress up. Make me as beautiful as possible. Ning Shu said to Yuelan. Yuelan immediately said, okay. Yuelan hoped that the regent could take her miss away from here. The maid heard Ning Shu's words and quickly said, the general said that you should dress sloppily and put some dust on your face. Ning Shu and Yuelan ignored her. Under Yuelan's skillful hands, Ning Shu looked at her own face. She was so beautiful that she didn't dare to look directly at it. Ning Shu felt that he was about to be mesmerized by this face. The maid looked at Ning Shu in a daze, then shook her head and said, you can't do this. The general will kill you. It's okay. Lead the way. Ning Shu clamped her buttocks tightly, not allowing her waist to sway. She walked towards the front hall elegantly. Ning Shu walked into the front hall. The atmosphere was not very good. Situ Qingyu's face was cold and Luo Junyan had a faint smile. The conversation between the two was very unpleasant. Seeing Ning Shu come in, Situ Qingyu and Luo Junyan were stunned. Situ Qingyu's face immediately darkened. He knew that the regent came for Mu Yenluo and told her not to stand out too much. But now, she was so beautiful. Cold and charming, with exquisite makeup. Situ Qingyu's heart was full of anger. He looked at Ning Shu as if he was looking at his prey, as if he would be torn apart by Ning Shu in the next moment. Luo Junyan looked at Ning Shu, his eyes full of amazement. His gaze was domineering and lingering, and there was a kind of determination in his eyes. He didn't expect this female slave to be so beautiful. She was really devastatingly beautiful. No wonder Situ Qingyu was unwilling to give her to him. Cough, cough. Do you still remember me? Luo Junyan asked. He walked in front of Ning Shu. There was a smell of ambergris on his body and a strong masculine aura that made people's hearts tremble. Ning Shu was now pretending to be noble and cold, but when he opened his mouth, his voice was extremely rough. Who are you? Luo Junyan was stunned when he heard such a coarse voice. He felt that it was too out of place. Such a beautiful person should have a soft and gentle voice. It was charming, affectionate, and melodious. What's wrong with your voice? Are you injured? Luo Junyan asked with a frown. Don't worry. I will heal your voice. Ning Shu raised an eyebrow and didn't say anything. Seeing that Ning Shu didn't speak, Luo Junyan said eagerly, have you forgotten? Bun, do you still remember Bun? We met at the bun shop. Ning Shu pursed her lips. When they were at the bun shop, she didn't have any image at all. How could Luo Junyan be so sure that it was her? Sure enough, he had taken a fancy to Mu Yenluo's beauty, but after getting her, he treated her like dirt, raped her, and sexually abused her. Basically, when Mu Yenluo was on her period, it was Luo Junyan's exclusive time. What a unique taste. Leave, Situ Qingyu said coldly to Ning Shu. Before Ning Shu could speak, Luo Junyan said, Situ Qingyu, I am here to take her away today. Situ Qingyu sneered. Your Highness, she belongs to me now. Are you going to snatch her away? Oh, he. Was he going to snatch her away now? Chapter 134. Situ Qingyu didn't want Ning Shu and Luo Junyan to leave at all. This was somewhat different from the plot. Ning Shu understood after thinking for a while. Situ Qingyu hadn't gotten her body yet. What he couldn't get was good. If he got it too easily, he wouldn't cherish it. Now, there was a prince regent who obviously had bad intentions. His status was higher than his power was greater than his, and he was as handsome as him. Situ Qingyu immediately felt a sense of crisis in his heart. For the sake of his male dignity, he had to go all out. Food was for the fragrance, and women were for the beauty. Humans were indeed despicable. Luo Junyan said domineeringly, "Such a beauty should be taken good care of and not suffer under the hands of a butcher like you. General Situ, don't you think you're going overboard by tying her up and parading her through the streets in public? She's my slave. I can do whatever I want. What does it have to do with your highness?" Situ Qingyu said with a cold face. "I've said it before. She's mine from now on. Even if she's a slave, I can still give her a noble status. Situ Qingyu, remember your status. What right do you have to fight with me?" Luo Junyan said with disdain. Situ Qingyu hated people who looked down on him the most. Now that Luo Junyan was using his status to look down on him and oppress him, Situ Qingyu's face instantly turned ugly. "Then what does your highness want?" "I, Situ Qingyu, will accompany you to the end." Situ Qingyu's face stiffened, and he didn't give in. Ning Shu watched the two men fight from the side. As the person involved, she didn't have the right to speak. It was quite miserable. Ning Shu immediately looked at the two of them with a teary expression. She grabbed the clothes by her chest and looked like she was hurt. She said sadly, "You can do this. I'm a human, not a thing. I have my own thoughts. Why are you fighting over me? Can't you show me some respect?" Ning Shu wiped her tears and ran away with small steps, not caring if the people in the room were fighting or being gay. "Miss, wait for this servant." Yulan immediately chased after Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked back and saw that the little girl was running very fast. He quickly increased his speed. Yulan shouted from behind, "Miss, wait for this servant." Ning Shu was really tired from running. She held on to the railing and gasped for breath. Yulan almost fainted. She gasped for breath and asked, "Miss, why are you running so fast? You chased me with all your might. How could I not run?" Ning Shu said. "I'll just treat it as training my body." The two returned to the embroidery building. Ning Shu poured a large glass of water. Yulan pursed her lips and asked, "Miss, why didn't you go with the regent? The regent is much better than this general. This general even beat people." Situ Qingyu was a violent maniac. Ning Shu propped up her chin and looked at Yulan. She lifted her chin with her finger and said rudely, "Little girl, you're not bad looking." "Miss, I'm serious. Besides, I'm not as good looking as you. Miss stays in the boudoir, but your reputation has spread throughout the Donghua nation." Yulan said shyly. "Reputation? Bah, it was reputation. It made every man want to sleep with Mu Yenluo, the most beautiful woman in the world. Alright, I know what I'm doing. Why did your square-faced brother bring food?" Ning Shu touched her stomach and felt a little hungry. "Miss, what are you talking about? What square-faced brother? The secret guard is not my brother at all." Yulan immediately said, "I don't have such an ugly brother." Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu turned around and saw the secret guard climbing the window and entering the room. He probably heard what Yulan said. The secret guard threw the food on the table and snorted at Yulan. She was talking behind someone's back and was heard by someone. Yulan blushed and didn't say anything. Ning Shu comforted her and said, "Yulan was just joking. You're not ugly. You're unique. I've never seen such a square face like yours. What a square face, so square. I reckon you're the only one in the world who looks like this. You should be proud. The secret guard was speechless. The secret guard glanced at Ning Shu and Yuelon with his exposed eyes and jumped out of the window. Yuelon was a little uneasy. She asked Ning Shu, who was eating a chicken, "Miss, the secret guard won't be angry and ignore us because we said he's ugly?" Ning Shu sucked the meat on her finger and said calmly, "It's okay. I just comforted him." Yuelon looked at Ning Shu. "Miss, were you comforting him? I think you're rubbing salt on his wound." It was unknown if it was because of Ning Shu's declaration that she was the female lead, but Situ Qingyu looked at her with a complicated gaze. Ning Shu's intestines were in a knot, but her face was noble and cold. "I'm so cold and fragile. Do you have the heart to hurt me?" Now that Situ Qingyu didn't restrict Ning Shu's movements, he allowed her to wander around the Prime Minister's residence. When it was time for dinner, someone sent food over. Yuelon was dumbfounded. She couldn't understand the feeling of going from hell to heaven. Not only was Yuelon dumbfounded, but Ning Shu was also baffled. Could it be that Situ Qingyu was going to take the warm route? Or was it because of her deafening declaration? However, Ning Shu didn't refuse food. She also accepted the jewelry that Situ Qingyu sent over. Then, she turned around and asked the secret guard to sell them for money. After this stop at the Prime Minister's residence, she still had to travel around the world to visit the imperial merchant's residence. Then, she still had to find a teacher in the remote countryside, a divine doctor who liked to live in the forest, and the leader of the demonic sect who lived halfway up the mountain like a caveman. What was she going to do if she didn't have money? However, the secret guard didn't get much money. Ning Shu suspected that Situ Qingyu didn't send fake goods, or that the secret guard was a fool who was forced to be fooled. Ning Shu stood in the pavilion and looked at Situ Qingyu who was practicing his sword outside. Petals swirled in the air, the sound of the sword resounded, and the light of the sword flashed. Coupled with the beautiful man Situ Qingyu, it was as beautiful as a painting. There should be a beauty playing the zither in such a scene, but Ning Shu didn't know how to play the zither at all. Situ Qingyu stopped his moves, and Ning Shu immediately applauded. "General, you've really played a cheap trick." Situ Qingyu and Ning Shu smiled faintly. Their forehead was slightly sweaty. When they smiled like this, they felt as if the school hunk was walking toward them with a basketball in his arms. It had a strong smell of hormones. "Mu Yenluo, this general wants to ask you. Are you willing to accompany this general?" Situ Qingyu asked Ning Shu in a deep voice. The current Situ Qingyu seemed to have restrained his hostility and ruthlessness. He looked masculine and valiant, with a thin waist and narrow buttocks, especially able to make a woman's heart ripple. Ning Shu was even more puzzled. Why did he suddenly change his style? Ning Shu asked, "Why? Why are you suddenly treating me so well? I feel overwhelmed by the favor and my heart trembles. I'm afraid you're going to do something to me." Situ Qingyu was speechless. Chapter 135. Situ Qingyu wasn't the only one who became more attentive to Ning Shu. Even Luo Junyan came to the Prime Minister's residence every day to deliver things. They were all treasures and valuable trinkets. Ning Shu was even more confused. These two people were wooing her. Ning Shu covered her face with her hands. She didn't expect that someone with less than 5 points of charm would suddenly be wooed one day. She didn't get this kind of treatment when she was cannon fodder. But soon, Ning Shu couldn't be bothered anymore. The secret guard said to Ning Shu directly, "These two people are making a bet to see who you will fall in love with. Don't ask me how I know. I just know." "Alright, I overheard it." Ning Shu felt heartbroken. After all this time, it was Situ Qingyu and Luo Junyan who made a bet that the beauty's heart would belong to whoever could win her heart. Ning Shu was speechless. Indeed, A dog can't change its spots. She freaking thought that she had become charming just because she was wearing the female lead's skin. It was all because of the attraction between the male and female leads. It had nothing to do with her personal charm. Now, Luo Junyan was loitering in front of her again. Ning Shu looked at Luo Junyan in front of her silently. His expression was that of a domineering CEO, making Ning Shu's balls hurt. Woman, come with me. I can give you a noble status and a richer life. Luo Junyan reached out his hand to Ning Shu. I will love you dearly. I heard that there are more than 30 concubines in the prince's residence. If I go to the prince's residence, won't they eat me up? Ning Shu looked terrified and helpless. She shook her head and said, there aren't that many women here. I'm willing to scatter my harem for you. I only want you, Luo Junyan said excitedly. Luo Junyan said agitatedly. His saliva almost splashed onto Ning Shu's face. Ning Shu hurriedly covered her face with a handkerchief, revealing a pair of watery eyes. But this little girl doesn't dare to believe your highness. What about those girls who were chased away? From now on, this prince will only have you as his woman. This prince will not touch other women. You don't have to care about those women. This prince will give them a sum of money, enough for them to live on, Ning Shu said affectionately. Ning Shu, fuck, what a scumbag. Fuck you. You chased me away just like that. This scumbag. Ning Shu's heart was filled with loathing for this person. He had never thought about how these women would live. This was the ancient times where hierarchy was strict. Even if the female lead Mu Yenluo and the 7 dwarves lived happily together, they had to find a place to live in seclusion and not in the open. Ning Shu picked up the cup on the stone table and splashed it on Luo Junyan's face. Scumbag, wash away your filthy soul. Ah, what's wrong with my hand? Why can't I control it? Sob sob sob. Ning Shu wiped his tears and ran out of the pavilion, ignoring Luo Junyan's shocked face. Miss, wait for this servant. Wait for this servant. Yuelan chased after Ning Shu. Miss, Ning Shu ran back to her embroidery building. Yuelan was almost out of breath from running. She stammered, Miss, why don't you wait for this servant every time? Ning Shu poured a cup of tea and took a deep breath. She said to Yuelan, your miss is going to leave this place. What are your plans? This servant will follow Mississippi. This servant is Mrs. Person in life and will be Mrs. Ghost in death. Miss, please don't leave this servant behind. Yuelan's expression was heroic and stern. Ning Shu didn't want to be entangled with these two people anymore. She wanted to leave as soon as possible. But before she left, she had to teach the general and the prince a lesson. She didn't get raped by these two people. Half of the mission was completed. At least to some extent, she had avoided the plot. She couldn't delay any longer. If these two lost their patience and raped her, Ning Shu wouldn't be able to find a place to cry. Ning Shu took out the whistle that was tucked deep in her cleavage and blew it. After a while, a black-clothed and masked shadow guard came in through the window. Ning Shu looked at his disguise. It was bad enough that he was ugly, but how could he ruin himself like this? You're hopeless. Shadow guard, go prepare a carriage and some dry food. We're leaving. Ning Shu looked at the shadow guard seriously and said, the fates of the 3 of us are in your hands. Do your best. The shadow guard looked at Ning Shu. Why do you want to leave? I think these two are dragons and phoenixes. They both like you now. Why do you want to leave? You don't understand love at all. Ning Shu raised his chin. His face was melancholic and haggard. The shadow guard's eyes swept over Ning Shu's face and said disdainfully, you've lost your mind. Then, she jumped out of the window. Ning Shu was eating dinner when Situ Qingyu came. He sat across from Ning Shu and suddenly reached out to grab Ning Shu's hand. Immediately, Ning Shu felt that he had hair all over his body. Ning Shu didn't say anything. He just silently wanted to pull his hand back. Situ Qingyu held Ning Shu's hand tightly. Ning Shu tried to pull his hand back, but Situ Qingyu immediately let go of Ning Shu's hand. Then, with a slap, Ning Shu's hand hit his own face and then fell to the ground. "Miss, are you okay?" Yuelan immediately came up to help Ning Shu. Ning Shu felt that his butt was numb, but his face looked noble and indifferent. Ning Shu thought, "This damn bitch. Why are you looking for me?" Ning Shu secretly rubbed his butt. Situ Qingyu looked at Ning Shu with a pair of blurred and painful eyes. This gaze made Ning Shu's body tremble. Oh my, what a touching gaze. Situ Qingyu wanted to hold Ning Shu's hand again, but Ning Shu immediately put his hand behind his back. Situ Qingyu said, "Yan Luo, are you still angry at me for bullying you before? Is that why you're so cold to me now?" "Yes." Ning Shu shook his head and said, "Yan Luo knows that the general doesn't like women. In the past, women made me eat shit and lick shoes. I've been abused a lot, so I can understand why the general treats me like this. However, Yan Luo feels wronged. After all, Yan Luo didn't have you, didn't make you eat shit, didn't make you lick shoes, didn't make you bark like a dog, didn't ride you like a horse, didn't treat you like a human, so Yan Luo feels wronged." Ding! Abuse points, 5, 10, 20. Current abuse points, 70. 2333 sounded very excited, although he didn't know why a mainframe would be so excited. Ning Shu saw that Situ Qingyu's face was trembling violently, and his eyes were red. When he looked at him, there was an uncontrollable murderous intent in his eyes. Ning Shu hurriedly widened his innocent eyes and covered his mouth with his hand. His face was full of guilt. He hurriedly said, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought this up. Even if you have a terrible past, in Yanluo's heart, the general will always be an indomitable spirit." What was an indomitable spirit for bullying a woman? Those women shouldn't have treated you like this in the past. You deserve it. If it was Yanluo wouldn't have treated you like this. She would have killed him. "General, you won't blame me, right? I didn't mean to say these things." So what if he said it? Chapter 136. After being lectured by Ning Shu, Situ Qingyu forcibly suppressed the violence in his heart and wanted to grab Ning Shu's hand. However, Ning Shu's hand was behind her back, so he could only put his hand on Ning Shu's shoulder and said affectionately, "Mu Yanluo, I love you." Ning Shu suddenly showed a sour expression and grimaced. Situ Qingyu lowered his head and wanted to kiss Ning Shu. Looking at his face getting closer and closer, Ning Shu really wanted to vomit. He had said so much just to get his hands on her body. Ning Shu turned her head and avoided Situ Qingyu's lips. She said sadly, "General, do you want Yanluo?" A trace of impatience flashed across Situ Qingyu's face. The bet he made with the regent was just a game of hunting, but this woman really put on airs, which made Situ Qingyu's heart churn with anger. Ning Shu naturally saw Situ Qingyu's unkind eyes, but she put on a silly and sweet expression and said loudly, "General, please respect me. If you love me, you should respect me. We haven't gotten married yet, so you can't do such an impolite thing. Do you love my body?" A trace of displeasure flashed across Situ Qingyu's face. He held Ning Shu's shoulder and said, "I was attracted to you and couldn't help myself. I naturally respect you and will marry you in a palanquin. Just wait to become my wife." Ning Shu's teeth ached even more. She couldn't help but lower her head and show a look of disdain. She said shyly, "Thank you, General. General, you can go first. I'm a little tired." Ning Shu turned and went into the room, closing the door with a bang. Situ Qingyu's face darkened. He snorted almost undetectably and turned to leave with his hands behind his back. Ning Shu saw Situ Qingyu leave through the crack in the door and couldn't help rubbing her cheeks. Situ Qingyu wanted to break the rules of the game. She would belong to whoever could win her heart. Situ Qingyu wanted to push her directly just now. Get lost. It seemed that he was going to leave this place. When Situ Qingyu got impatient, she would be waiting to be raped. The next night, Ning Shu prepared a table full of sumptuous dishes and several jars of fine wine. Then, she put a big bag of medicine in each of the jars. She rolled up her sleeves and put her hands into the jars. She stirred vigorously twice to let the medicine powder completely dissolve in the wine. After everything was ready, Ning Shu waited for Situ Qingyu and Luo Junyan to come over with a noble and cold expression. Situ Qingyu and Luo Junyan came together. When the two of them walked into the room, the whole room was lit up by their radiance. Ning Shu sighed in his heart. He was such a beauty, but he was a pervert. Please have a seat. I invited you to dinner today because I have something to tell you. Ning Shu politely asked Situ Qingyu and Luo Junyan to sit down. Luo Junyan looked at Ning Shu and said, "You're very beautiful today." Ning Shu smiled shyly and touched her face. She held her breath until her face turned red. Then, she said, "Thank you for the compliment, Your Highness. I don't deserve it. You're really beautiful." Yen Luo deserves the title of the most beautiful woman in the world, Situ Qingyu said. Ning Shu lowered her head and smiled shyly again. She placed two big bowls in front of them and said, "Yen Luo knows that I'm not beautiful. It's already Yen Luo's greatest fortune to be able to receive your highnesses and general's pity." As Ning Shu spoke, she poured wine into their bowls. "Today, I invited the two of you here to tell you my true thoughts." "Yen Luo, just say what you want to say," Luo Junyan said anxiously. Ning Shu held her breath again until her face turned red. Then, she stamped her foot shyly and said, "Yen Luo really doesn't want to say it. You guys drink first." Luo Junyan was the first to finish the entire bowl of wine, not leaving a single drop behind. Situ Qingyu did not move. He was a man of war, so he was naturally extremely vigilant. Moreover, Situ Qingyu did not trust Ning Shu. Ning Shu saw that Luo Junyan had finished the wine and became even more shy. She lowered her head and said shyly, "Your Highness, you're amazing." After drinking a bowl of wine, Luo Junyan's face was a little red. When he heard Ning Shu's words, he puffed out his chest. Ning Shu said, "I'm a lord who's second only to you. I'll treat you well in the future." Ning Shu looked at Luo Junyan with sparkling eyes. She looked as if she loved him so much that she couldn't say it out loud. Situ Qingyu frowned and snorted. He also finished the wine in his bowl. Ning Shu immediately said, "General, you're as amazing as His Highness." Ning Shu poured more wine for Situ Qingyu. "General, you've been through countless battles and you're heroic. Yen Luo has never seen a man like you who gives me a sense of security." Luo Junyan raised his wine bowl and said provocatively to Situ Qingyu, "General Situ, I'll toast you." Situ Qingyu's expression didn't change. He clinked glasses with Luo Junyan and they both drank. Ning Shu stamped his feet anxiously and said, "Don't drink because of this. Eat. Drinking like this is bad for your health. Can you give me some face and not do this for me?" Luo Junyan reached out to stop Ning Shu from speaking. He said indifferently, "This is a duel between men. It has nothing to do with you." Ning Shu clutched his chest and shook his head with a twisted face. "But Yen Luo doesn't want you to do this. Don't do this. Drink, drink. It's best if you die from drinking." "Don't worry about it," Situ Qingyu said to Ning Shu. Ning Shu was obedient. She watched the two men compete in drinking. At first, they used bowls, but later, they drank directly from the jug. Ning Shu sat on the stool and crossed her legs as she watched the two men drink to their deaths. In the end, they were drunk and passed out on the ground. Girl, it's time to go to work. Ning Shu said to Yuelan. Yuelan held the package in her arms and said, Miss, are we leaving now? Wait. I'll be a good person to the end. Drag them to the bed, Ning Shu said as he rolled up his sleeves. Yuelan nodded obediently and put down the package. She pulled Situ Qingyu's arm and dragged him to the bed. Oh my, I didn't expect this girl to be so strong. Ning Shu grabbed Luo Junyan's clothes and used all his strength to drag him. Ning Shu's face turned red, but Luo Junyan on the ground didn't move at all. Miss, what are you doing? Yuelan asked Ning Shu. We should go. The secret guards are still waiting for us. Ning Shu panted and said, Come and help me. I can't move him. Yuelan hurried over and helped Ning Shu drag Luo Junyan onto the bed. Ning Shu reached out and unbuttoned Luo Junyan's clothes. After a while, Luo Junyan was naked and his most private parts were exposed. Yuelan was dumbfounded. She covered her eyes and asked, Miss, what are you doing? Be a good person. Ning Shu swiftly took off Situ Qingyu's clothes and walked around with him. Miss. Yuelan covered her eyes with her hands and looked at the two men's bodies through the gaps of her fingers. Chapter 137. Ning Shu let the two naked men hug each other and laughed. Congratulations on opening the door to a new world. Let's go. Ning Shu said to Yuelan. Seeing that Yuelan was still looking at the two men on the bed, he pulled Yuelan's collar and walked out of the room. Miss, I feel very excited, Yuelan said to Ning Shu. Her eyes were emitting a green light, which was especially terrifying in the dark night. Ning Shu was speechless. What are you excited about? Seeing the two of them lying on the bed, this servant's heart thumped, 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 the roots of her hair stood on end, and goosebumps rose all over her body. In short, I was very excited. Yuelan's face was completely red. Ning Shu's jaw dropped to the ground. Situ Qingyu and Luo Junyan were not the only ones who were about to open the door to a new world. There was also Yuelan. Yuelan still wanted to go into the room, but Ning Shu grabbed her collar and blew the whistle. Then, a black shadow jumped in through the window and immediately jumped out again. Ning Shu was speechless. She and Yuelan were clearly in the courtyard. Why did the square-faced secret guard jump into the room? Have you prepared the things I asked you to prepare? Ning Shu's secret guard asked. The secret guard nodded and said, The carriage is outside the courtyard wall. We can leave soon. Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief and quickly said, Let's go. The three of them avoided the patrol team in the residence and reached the courtyard wall. Ning Shu asked, How do we get over? The secret guard said pretentiously, I'll carry you over. Then, the secret guard held one of them with each arm and stepped on the courtyard wall, trying to fly over. In the end, the secret guard overestimated his ability. The three of them fell to the ground and rolled into a ball. Can you do it or not? Ning Shu patted the dust off his body. It was unbearable to meet such an unreliable secret guard. The secret guard said, I can climb over the wall by myself, but I didn't expect that I couldn't climb over with two people. Ning Shu was speechless. Forget it, Yuelan and I will just go crawl through the dog hole, Ning Shu said snappily. No. Yuelan said resolutely and decisively. Ning Shu said, This servant will go through the dog hole. Miss and the shadow guards will climb the wall. Both of them were running away, so how could there be a difference between the two? He was simply drunk. In the end, Ning Shu still held his chest and squeezed out of the dog hole. When he came out, Ning Shu said to Yuelan, Quickly support your young miss. Your young miss's chest hurts. Miss, do you want this servant to give you a massage? Yuelan reached out her hand to massage Ning Shu's chest. Ning Shu was speechless. The shadow guard came over with a carriage. Ning Shu and Yulan hurriedly got on the carriage. Secret guard Ning Shu asked, "Miss, where are you going?" E-City. The black-bellied imperial merchant was in that place. E-City wasn't far from here, so it would only take a day's journey. Does Miss have any relatives in E-City? The shadow guard asked, or does Master want Miss to meet up with them in E-City? No, I just want to go to E-City. Ning Shu said very willfully. The carriage left the capital. Looking at the capital's city gates getting further and further away, Ning Shu let out a deep breath. At least she wasn't pushed down by those two men. She didn't get pregnant, she didn't have a miscarriage, and she didn't get pushed down when her period came. After a busy night, Ning Shu also felt tired. He slept back to back with Yulan. Prime Minister's Manor, in the embroidery building. The room was filled with a strong smell of sex. Under the moonlight, the transparent gauze curtain could faintly make out the movements of the people on the bed. One was half kneeling, the other was crawling on the bed. They were constantly moving. Low panting, moaning, and crying sounds mixed with pain and pleasure. It was ambiguous. The two men were having sex, dripping with sweat. Their skin was touching, and the places where they were joined were dripping with blood. It made people feel even more tyrannical. Ding, abuse points 100. Ding, abuse points 100. Ning Shu woke up in the morning to 2333's happy voice. There were so many aphrodisiacs. He hoped that these two guys would die from the explosion. These aphrodisiacs were all produced by the system, and their efficacy was guaranteed. They were also on credit with 2333. When it was time to return the points, he would have to pay the interest. Ning Shu gritted his teeth and exchanged for the aphrodisiac. Damn, he felt that 2333's system was a blood-sucking existence. He stretched lazily. Life was still beautiful. Ning Shu lifted the curtain and saw that the carriage was parked in a forest by the side of the road. The shadow guard driving the carriage set up a fire not far away. There was a stove above the fire, boiling water. Ning Shu stretched out his leg and kicked the sleeping Yulan. Yulan immediately jumped up, but her head hit the roof of the carriage. Yulan covered her head. Ning Shu felt wronged and asked, "Miss, what's wrong?" Ning Shu walked to the shadow guard's side and sat down. He asked the shadow guard, "Good morning. How far are we from E-City?" "It's not far. Let's eat something and leave quickly. Maybe the general and the prince will send people to arrest us." The shadow guard made some food for Ning Shu and Yulan and poured some water for them to drink. She was wrong. This shadow guard was actually quite reliable. Ning Shu ate a biscuit and asked the shadow guard, "Why do you protect me?" "My father asked you to protect me, and you protect me. Don't you feel unsatisfied?" The shadow guard turned his square face to Ning Shu and said, "I was adopted by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister gave me food to eat and a place to sleep. Protecting Miss is my responsibility. Until Miss no longer needs my protection, or until I die before Mississippi." Ning Shu looked at him and suddenly felt that his square face was so handsome and charming. This guy probably didn't have any more scenes because he was killed. After a casual breakfast, Ning Shu and the other two headed for E-City. They had no idea how furious Situ Qingyu and Luo Junyan were. The entire capital was filled with wanted posters for her. Situ Qingyu hated women. Every day, he was mocked by Ning Shu, who acted noble in front of him and stepped on his wounds. He was disgusted with women. Now that he was rolling around with a man, he completely broke the ice. He felt that it was better to be with a man. During this process, he could be like a man, but he could also be like a woman. This feeling was too wonderful. Situ Qingyu's biggest goal now was to get Luo Junyan into bed again. However, Luo Junyan felt extremely disgusted. He was the high and mighty regent, but he actually slept with a man and was slept with by another man. Now, the hole in his back was bleeding every time he went to the toilet. Luo Junyan even had the thought of dying. Especially when he felt Situ Qingyu's scorching and predatory gaze, Luo Junyan's heart convulsed. He was a man. How could he be with another man? Moreover, this one was a general whose status was inferior to his. Mu Yen Luo, that bitch, he would definitely torture her to death once he caught her. Even that wouldn't be able to relieve the hatred in his heart. In short, this was a story of oppression and being oppressed. The dark and black-bellied attacker and the tsundere victim. Situ Qingyu and Luo Junyan restarted their sadistic love story. It basically had nothing to do with Ning Shu. The two members of Mu Yenluo's harem were gay. Chapter 138. Yi City was very prosperous. It was a city comparable to the capital. The people living in the capital were all high officials and nobles, but many of the people living in Yi City were rich people. It was a city filled with rich people. Two women in ragged clothes were pulling a tattered handcart. On the handcart was something wrapped in a tattered straw mat, revealing a pair of dirty feet. At a glance, one could tell that the person under the straw mat was a dead person. Seeing this scene, everyone unconsciously avoided them. The people pulling the handcart were Ning Shu and Yuelan. The person lying on the handcart pretending to be dead was the shadow guard brother. Ning Shu was so tired that he wanted to die. He looked around and found a lively place. He stopped the handcart and worked with Yuelan to lift the shadow guard out of the handcart and placed him on the street. Then, he took out a wooden board. On the wooden board, he wrote, "Sell your body to bury your father." Ning Shu knelt in front of the shadow guard and crawled on his body. She wailed, "Father, daughter has let you down, let you down. Miss, don't be sad. Master's spirit in heaven will see Miss filial piety." Yuelan first comforted Ning Shu. Then, she threw herself on the shadow guard and wailed, "Master, you died so miserably. Master, master." Ning Shu saw that the place Yuelan was hugging was a bit sensitive. It was probably the place where the shadow guard was. However, Yuelan didn't notice anything and wailed desperately. Ning Shu felt the shadow guard under the straw mat move. The straw mat covering him also moved. Ning Shu hurriedly pulled Yuelan up. Yuelan wiped her tears and asked, "Miss, what's wrong?" Ning Shu wanted to say that she was pressing on his dick, but seeing Yuelan's dumbfounded expression, he said, "Don't touch father's body." Yuelan let out two ohs as she knelt at the side, tears dripping down her cheeks. Ning Shu felt deep veneration for her. This was the real movie queen. Ning Shu and Yuelan's movements could be heard from half the street, attracting many onlookers. However, seeing Ning Shu and Yuelan's unkempt appearance, no one stood out to buy Ning Shu. Ning Shu did not mind. His target was not these people. He was waiting for the male lead, Huang Shangjun, a rich and powerful man. "Miss, what should we do now? It's been so long since someone asked us about the price." Yuelan asked. Ning Shu said, "Don't worry." Yuelan saw that no one would ask her about it for a while, so she knelt on the ground and stopped wailing. She wiped her tears with a dirty handkerchief. The people around came and went, but no one came up to ask about the price. Ning Shu was a little regretful. If he had known, he would not have put himself in such a sorry state. He made himself too pitiful and no one asked. Ning Shu was about to fall asleep while kneeling on the ground. Her head was nodding off bit by bit. Beside her, Yuelan had already fallen asleep while leaning on the handcart. She was drooling. "Sell your body to bury your father?" A low and sexy voice sounded. Ning Shu's drowsiness disappeared and he quickly pushed Yuelan who was sleeping next to him. As soon as Yuelan opened her eyes, she immediately wailed. "Master, it's this servant's fault. I didn't protect Miss well and let Miss fall to the point of selling her body to bury her father." Miss, this servant is pitiful Mississippi. Yuan hugged Ning Shu and wailed. Ning Shu used all his strength to pull Yuan's arms away and said sadly to the person who came, "Young master, this little girl is from Chuzhou City. I really have no other way, so I sold my body to bury my father. Raise your head and let me have a look." Ning Shu immediately raised his head and looked at the man. The background around the man was blurred. He was a shining existence. This was definitely Nanshujin. Qi Xing's body flowed with a kind of gentle and cruel beauty. He was steady and gave people a sense of danger. His eyes were deep and calm, as if something was surging. This was the two-faced imperial merchant, Qi Xing. Qi Xing narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Ning Shu's dirty face. He closed the folding fan and gently hit the palm of his hand. He said, "Why don't you wash your face and make it prettier so that you can sell it at a higher price?" Before Ning Shu could say anything, Yuan said, "My miss said that she doesn't care about our appearance. Anyone who helps us is a good person." Qi Xing was wearing a brocade robe. Every part of his body was incomparably exquisite. Even the pendant of his folding fan was made of round jade. At first glance, people could tell that he was from a wealthy family. His every move carried with it the aura of wealth. Qi Xing squatted down and lifted the tattered straw mat with his folding fan. He tilted his head and looked at the shadow guard's square face. Then he looked at Ning Shu and said, "You look a little different from your father." Ning Shu said indifferently, "My mother's beauty neutralizes my father's ugliness." Ning Shu felt wronged for the shadow guard. Not only was he ugly, but he also looked old. Qi Xing didn't even question the shadow guard's age. How could he have a daughter as old as her? Ning Shu looked at Qi Xing expectantly. "Young master, do you need a maid?" "As long as you bury my father, I will be your maid." Qi Xing opened his fan with a schwa sound and said arrogantly, "How much money do you want?" Ning Shu stretched out a finger. Qi Xing glanced at Ning Shu's finger. "1 tael of silver." Fuck, 1 tael of silver wasn't enough. They were pretending to be dead and crying. It wasn't enough to buy 3 bowls of noodles. Rich people were all stingy. Ning Shu said shyly to Qi Xing, "Young master, 1 tael of silver is a little too little. It can't even buy a coffin." Qi Xing waved his folding fan and said indifferently, "Say it." "How much?" "My father used to be an official of the imperial court. Although he was a 7th-ranked minor official, he was still an official. If he was buried so carelessly, how could he face his ancestors? So young master, can you raise the price a little?" Ning Shu pulled Yuan over. "In the future, both of us will be your maids. You said so much just to raise the price." Qi Xing was incomparably indifferent. "How much?" 10,000 taels of silver. Ning Shu said sonorously. Qi Xing's expression didn't change. Ning Shu's eyelids twitched. He was indeed a black-bellied imperial merchant. Qi Xing stretched out 5 fingers. Ning Shu frowned and asked, 5,000 taels of silver. 5 taels of silver. If you don't want to, then forget it. Qi Xing said indifferently and turned to leave. Ning Shu saw that Qi Xing really left. He quickly stood up and stepped over the shadow guard. He caught up with Qi Xing and said, "Young master, please wait." Pft, cough cough cough. The secret guard that was stepped on by Ning Shu coughed violently. Yuan was dumbfounded and didn't know what to do. Ning Shu immediately pounced on him and wailed, "Father, do you have something to tell your daughter? It's all your daughter's fault for not being able to give you a proper funeral, so that you can't see your ancestors." The shadow guard glared at Ning Shu and closed his eyes as if he was dead. Ning Shu immediately wailed, "Father," Yuan also wailed, "Master, master." Qi Xing raised his eyebrows. He walked over and put his hand on the tip of the shadow guard's nose. Ning Shu said, "My condolences." Ning Shu, Oh, really dead? Chapter 139. She had only stepped on him once, but she had killed the shadow guard. Qi Xing took out an ingot of silver and threw it to Ning Shu. He said, "This is 20 taels. Bury your father and then go to the Qi residence." "Thank you, young master." Ning Shu put away the silver and worked with Yulan to put the secret guard on the cart and headed out of the city. Ning Shu and Yulan pulled the cart and ran quickly. Qi Xing raised his eyebrows. He suddenly felt that he had been cheated of his silver. Had he been cheated of his nickname, Fox Qi? When they reached the small forest outside the city, Ning Shu lifted the broken straw mat and patted the secret guard's face. "Hey, wake up, wake up." Yulan's face was a little pale. Ning Shu asked, "Miss, he can't really be dead, right?" Yulan also joined in the slapping. While crying, she slapped the secret guard's face and pinched his philtrum. She shouted, "Wake up, wake up." After a long while, the shadow guard coughed and woke up. His face was still very square before, but now it was swollen and much rounder. The secret guard touched his face. "What did you do?" "Sob, sob, sob. You finally woke up. Miss, and I thought you were dead." Yulan cried with joy. "Without you to protect me and Miss, what would we do?" The secret guard touched his face and said with a grimace, "I used the turtle breath technique and held my breath. Otherwise, I would have been exposed. After being stepped on by you, my internal injuries flared up again. I was injured when I fought with that general." The secret guard explained. Ning Shu instantly felt guilty and said, "Hurry up and treat your injuries. If you need any medicinal herbs, go buy them. Didn't I give you a lot of money before? That money is Mrs. How can I use it casually?" The secret guard said. Ning Shu instantly felt that the secret guard's image was incomparably great. He said, "It's fine. You can use it as you wish. Treat your injuries. Nothing is more important than your body." Seeing that the shadow guard had woken up, Yulan also breathed a sigh of relief. She and the young miss were both women. Having a man who knew martial arts by their side was like a stabilizing needle. Especially since the young miss was so delicate, she looked as if she hadn't eaten at all. Ning Shu and Yulan changed into slightly better cotton clothes. Ning Shu put on makeup for himself, imitating a big mouth, thick eyebrows, and a black mole on his chin. His image was as wretched as it could get. "Ah! You are the young miss?" Yulan let out an earth-shattering wail, shaking the birds in the forest to the point that they flew away. "Miss, what is it that you can't figure out? Why do you have to ruin yourself like this?" Yulan looked at Ning Shu with a pained expression. Ning Shu felt that it was very tiring to have such a girl by his side. "Why are you so painstakingly going to the Qi residence? Don't tell me you're going to be a little maid in the future." The shadow guard frowned. Ning Shu waved his hand and said, "My wish is to travel the world. This is only my temporary stronghold. When the time is up, I will leave." After a few days, Ning Shu brought Yulan to the Qi residence. The shadow guard secretly protected Ning Shu and Yulan. When they arrived at the entrance of the Qi residence, Ning Shu's gatekeeper grinned and said kindly, "Can you go and report that the person who will repay the kindness is here?" The gatekeeper was frightened by Ning Shu's big smile. He immediately said, "Where did this ugly girl come from? You're coveting my young master's beauty. You're thinking too much and you still want to find a young master." Ning Shu said, "You're thinking too much. You tell him." Ning Shu said to Yulan, "He doesn't believe that we're here to repay the kindness." With her hands on her hips, Yulan told the entire story to the gatekeeper. Yulan spoke very quickly, causing the gatekeeper's eyes to emit mosquito coils. "That's what happened. Besides, how come my young miss and I only have 20 taels?" Yulan said with grievance. The gatekeeper immediately said, 20 taels is not a small amount. You and your young miss look like this. 20 taels is already my young master's kindness. Yuan still wanted to say something, but was stopped by Ning Shu. A palanquin stopped at the entrance. Ning Shu felt that the person sitting in the palanquin must be the male lead. Ning Shu stared at the curtain. The curtain was lifted by a folding fan. Ning Shu looked at the folding fan and immediately shouted in a rough voice, "I've finally found you." Qi Sheng, who had just gotten out of the palanquin, heard this voice and saw a woman with a bloody mouth wailing at him. The hand holding the folding fan suddenly trembled. He frowned and asked, "Who are you?" 20 taels. A down-and-out young miss who sold her body to bury her father. Ning Shu pointed at his face. Look carefully. Qi Sheng looked away and said, "Your face was dirty before, but it still looked pretty. Why is it so ugly after washing it?" Ning Shu was speechless. "Thank you for the 20 taels, young master. This young miss has already buried my late father. Now, this young miss and this young miss's maids are young master's maids. A drop of water should be repaid with a spring of water. This young miss is a person with principles, integrity, and moral bottom line." Qi Sheng didn't look at Ning Shu's face and said indifferently, "Sure. This young master thought that you wouldn't come back." After that, Ning Shu and Yulan stayed in the Qi residence. In any case, they still had some protagonist aura. Ning Shu and Yulan stayed in the same room. Then, they changed into the uniform of the Qi residence's servant girls. Yulan looked at Ning Shu and said sadly, "Miss, do you really want to be a maid here?" "Of course. After spending so much effort to come in, of course I want to be a maid." If she didn't get close to Qi Sheng, how could she get out of the plot? Even if she didn't come over, the plot would force her to meet Qi Sheng. In the plot, Mu Yen Luo was physically and mentally exhausted by Situ Qingyu and Luo Junyan. She even asked for a threesome and escaped when the two were not paying attention. As for how the delicate Mu Yen Luo escaped, it was simply a mystery. Although she escaped, Mu Yen Luo didn't have a single silver tael on her. She was a woman in her boudoir and basically didn't go out much. As soon as she went out, she was confused and looked confused and innocent. Someone tricked her into coming to the brothel with a bowl of noodles. The brothel keeper saw that Mu Yen Luo was a peerless beauty and decided to auction her. Moreover, E-City was full of rich people. Auctioning such a peerless beauty could make the brothel overflow with oil. Mu Yen Luo was bought back by Qi Sheng at a high price. Although Mu Yen Luo avoided the brothel in her next 2 rebirths and didn't let herself fall into a brothel, she still couldn't avoid meeting these men. Even if she took a detour and didn't take this road, she would still meet these men. It really made her collapse. Qi Sheng, who was bought back, didn't do anything to Mu Yen Luo at first. He just put her in the backyard and didn't rape her violently like Situ Qingyu and Luo Junyan. Qi Sheng would visit Mu Yen Luo's courtyard whenever she was free. Then, she would chat with Mu Yen Luo about poems, songs, and ideals. In short, Qi Sheng looked like a gentle gentleman. Chapter 140. Mu Yen Luo felt respect from Qi Sheng. He was not like other men. He was very gentle. Although she was bought by Qi Sheng, he gave her a different feeling. In the Qi mansion, Mu Yen Luo felt an unprecedented peace. There were no 2 men eyeing her covetously and dragging her to do that kind of thing every day. Mu Yen Luo thought that her life would be peaceful like this. She had a good impression of Qi Sheng. She even confided in him about her identity and what had happened between the 2 men. Qi Sheng did not dislike Mu Yen Luo. He said that he had known her identity for a long time. After all, the streets of the capital were full of wanted posters for Mu Yen Luo. He did not care about her past. Mu Yen Luo was even more moved. So on a certain day and night, a man and a woman naturally had a heart-to-heart and body-to-body-to-body activities. Mu Yenluo felt that this was the most comfortable time after the fall of Donghua Nation, although she spent every day waiting for Qi Sheng. However, Qi Sheng did not give Mu Yenluo a definite identity. A concubine was not a concubine, and a wife was not a wife. Sometimes, Mu Yenluo was sentimental and felt that Qi Sheng still disliked her because she had been intimate with 2 men and even had a miscarriage. For a long time, Qi Sheng did not come to see Mu Yenluo. Mu Yenluo waited bitterly for Qi Sheng every day. Later, she learned that Qi Sheng's childhood sweetheart had returned. Mu Yenluo was originally a sentimental person. After learning the news, she ran to see Qi Sheng as if the sky had fallen. She happened to see Qi Sheng rolling with his childhood sweetheart. Mu Yenluo questioned Qi Sheng. Qi Sheng hugged his childhood sweetheart and said that Mu Yenluo was just a broken shoe, a prostitute he had bought. She could not compare to his true love at all. Then, Mu Yenluo was abandoned and was completely dispirited. Although Qi Sheng disliked Mu Yenluo, he was still very infatuated with Mu Yenluo's body. He often went to see Mu Yenluo. However, ever since she learned the heartbreaking truth from Qi Sheng, Mu Yenluo no longer let Qi Sheng on the bed. She washed her face with tears all day long and stammered as if she was in great pain. Mu Yenluo's appearance annoyed Qi Sheng a little. Although her body was wonderful and irresistible, he didn't want to do a woman lying like a dead fish. The more Qi Sheng was with his true love, the sadder Mu Yenluo was. She couldn't eat well and couldn't sleep. She tortured herself and became very haggard. In short, he was conflicted, and the nausea went on and on. Although Qi Sheng hated Mu Yenluo very much, he often went to her for sex, but Mu Yenluo would cry and refuse him. But it caused his true love to harbor a grudge in her heart. Then, the evil supporting female lead began to frame the female lead. Her childhood sweetheart faked her pregnancy and spent all day in front of Mu Yenluo showing off their love and child, causing Mu Yenluo's heart to shift. The supporting female lead's belly didn't have the real one. Then, she plotted against Mu Yenluo to kill the child in her belly. The fake one in her belly naturally disappeared. When Qi Sheng learned of this, he was furious. He didn't listen to Mu Yenluo's explanation and directly threw her into the dungeon to be tortured. Mu Yenluo was tortured in the dungeon. Coincidentally, Qi Sheng's business had a little problem. He was busy solving the problem and forgot about Mu Yenluo in the dungeon. In the dungeon, Mu Yenluo was tortured by his true love. Her body was covered with all kinds of scars. The supporting female lead was jealous of Mu Yenluo's face and directly destroyed it. When Qi Sheng thought of Mu Yenluo was hanging on to her last breath. In addition, Mu Yenluo's face was ruined. Qi Sheng listened to his true love and sent Mu Yenluo to a manor thousands of miles away from the Qi residence. Mu Yenluo was sent away in such a heart-wrenching state. However, after Mu Yenluo left, Qi Sheng's longing for her accumulated more and more, to the point where he was on the verge of falling ill from lovesickness. Knowing that the cinnabar mole in his heart was so vicious, he decisively gave up on his true love and ran to find Mu Yenluo. However, Mu Yenluo had disappeared. Therefore, every time Mu Yenluo met a man, she would want to have such an unforgettable relationship. Ning Shu felt that Qi Sheng was even more hateful than Situ Qingyu and Luo Junyan. He used the method of boiling a frog in warm water to make Mu Yenluo fall in love with him. He took the route of attacking her heart. He used a gentle appearance to win Mu Yenluo's heart, but later on, he treated her cruelly. Although he later realized his feelings for Mu Yenluo paid a huge price. Her face was ruined and her snow-white skin was gone. It was really fucking miserable. Moreover, Mu Yenluo was indecisive and liked to torture herself when she encountered problems. It really made Ning Shu, a bystander, feel that his heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys had all been moved. It was too fucking miserable. Ning Shu and Yuelan tidied up the room. A woman who looked like a steward walked in. Ning Shu said, "From today onwards, you will be young master's personal maid." Ning Shu, 0, how did she become Qi Sheng's personal maid with such an ugly appearance? Could it be that Qi Sheng still liked her in this state? Could it be that this was the attraction between the male and female leads? The plot always brought the male and female leads together. Nanny, what do personal maids have to do? Ning Shu looked at the steward nanny and asked shyly. The steward nanny spat at Ning Shu. Bah, you think too much. You only need to pour tea and water for young master and do some chores for him. Do you think you can sneak into young master's bed with such a look? Young master already has Miss Yufei in his heart. Just do your job well. If you have any other thoughts, young master will make you wish you were dead. Ning Shu pretended to be frightened. Yuelan immediately said indignantly, "What's wrong with my miss? My miss is as beautiful as a flower. Why do you look down on my miss so much? My miss is also the prime minister." Ugh, Ning Shu immediately covered Yuelan's mouth and said to the nanny in charge, "I'll remember. I'll definitely abide by my duties and serve the young master well. I'll make the young master comfortable and beautiful." The steward nanny hummed in acknowledgement. Ning Shu quickly handed over a silver ingot, making the steward nanny's eyes light up. "You have a bright future." Ning Shu immediately said shyly, "Thank you for your praise, nanny. I hope nanny will take care of me in the Qi residence." After the steward nanny left, Yuelan immediately said, "Miss, what are you doing? You have to suffer so much to do this. We worked so hard to sell our bodies to bury our father and gave half of the money to that nanny. This servant's heart is bleeding. Your miss has her own plans." Ning Shu crossed her legs and said. Chapter 141. Ning Shu became Qi Sheng's personal maid. She brought the brewed tea to Qi Sheng's study. When she opened the door and walked in, she saw that Qi Sheng was busy. As the heir of the family business, Qi Sheng was very busy. But he still took the time to flirt with Mu Yenluo. Later, his true love came, and he flirted with his true love. He didn't seem to be busy at all. Ning Shu put the teacup in Qi Sheng's hand. Qi Sheng glanced at the teacup and then looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu immediately opened his mouth and smiled at Qi Sheng, saying, "Young master, please have some tea." "Didn't anyone tell you that I drink warm tea?" Qi Sheng said indifferently. "I'm sorry, this servant just came and didn't know very well. How about this servant make it again?" Ning Shu's face was full of guilt. She quickly picked up the teacup and carelessly poured the boiling hot tea into Qi Sheng's hand. It was boiling hot tea. She poured the freshly brewed tea into Qi Sheng's hand. "What are you doing?" Qi Sheng frowned tightly. He was in some pain and his hand turned red in an instant. Ning Shu felt even more guilty. She quickly took out a handkerchief and wiped Qi Sheng's hand. As soon as Ning Shu took out the handkerchief, Qi Sheng immediately smelled the fragrance of flowers mixed with the smell of stinky feet. The fragrance and stench were mixed together. Qi Sheng was about to vomit on the spot. He quickly covered the maid's nose with his hand, but his hand was wiped by the handkerchief and there was a stench. Qi Sheng quickly ran out of the room. Ning Shu curled his lips, threw the handkerchief into the teacup, and left with the teacup. Ning Shu returned to the room. Yuelan immediately asked Ning Shu, "Miss, did he make things difficult for you?" "No, your miss can do anything. How could he make things difficult for her?" Ning Shu said with his legs crossed. Yuelan was very distressed. "Miss is the Prime Minister's daughter. She has a golden branch and jade leaf, but now she has to serve someone. Miss, this servant is pitiful. Alright, stop howling. Your miss is fine." Ning Shu said snappily. Yuelan immediately shut her mouth and sobbed. She felt very wronged. Although Ning Shu disgusted Qi Sheng still let Ning Shu continue to be his personal maidservant. Even if Ning Shu always made mistakes and was ugly, Qi Sheng still insisted that Ning Shu be his maidservant. Even when Ning Shu was serving Qi Sheng, his snot got into the food. When Qi Sheng was bathing, Ning Shu walked in casually and poured a bucket of hot water into the bathtub. It was so hot that Qi Sheng jumped up and ran around the house naked. Moreover, Ning Shu's body always smelled like stinky feet, which was especially unbearable for Qi Sheng. However, Qi Sheng was still able to endure it. This made Ning Shu sigh. The attraction between the male and female leads was simply too strong. What is the smell on your body? Qi Sheng finally couldn't help but ask. Ning Shu stared at Qi Sheng with his heavily eyeshadow eyes and said happily, "This is the fragrance of osmanthus. This servant uses this fragrance to smoke the handkerchief on my clothes every day. Young master, do you smell it? Is it very fragrant?" Ning Shu said as he put the handkerchief in front of Qi Sheng. Qi Sheng turned his head and frowned. Ning Shu said, "Actually, you are already very fragrant. There is no need for incense at all. This incense will destroy the fresh smell on your body." Ning Shu, oh, look at how good he was at talking. A profiteer was indeed a profiteer. He obviously couldn't stand the mixed smell of feet and flowers on her body, but he still insisted on saying that it was a fresh smell. The original owner was deceived by him like this. On the outside, he was gentle and elegant, but on the inside, he was extremely black-bellied. Ning Shu grinned and laughed. His bloody mouth was even bigger, which was simply unbearable to look at. Qi Sheng turned her head away. After a while, she turned her head back. Ning Shu said, "Of course it is beautiful. This makeup is not good for your skin. Besides, you are still young. This makeup will only cover up your original beauty." In fact, Qi Sheng's heart was itching. She suddenly wanted to wash this woman's face clean and see what she looked like. Ning Shu raised his thick eyebrows, covered his heart and said, "Baby's heart is bitter, but baby won't say it. Aren't you called Xiao Hong? Why are you called baby again?" Qi Sheng asked doubtfully. Ning Shu waved his hand and said, "Don't worry about these details. This servant's appearance is very similar to this servant's father. Because I am ugly, I use beautiful makeup to cover up my ugliness. Young master, you don't know how bitter this servant's heart is. This servant doesn't dare to remove my makeup at night. I am afraid that when I wake up at night, I will be mistaken for a ghost." Ning Shu touched his face narcissistically and said, "Fortunately, someone taught me the art of makeup. Now that I put on makeup, this servant is much more confident." Qi Sheng's face trembled, and she couldn't speak. "Your appearance is given by your parents. You shouldn't be so disdainful. You don't have to be like this when you are with me. I won't dislike your appearance. In the future, you don't have to put on such troublesome makeup. Naturally, you will be the most beautiful." Qi Sheng's eyes were very sincere, giving people the feeling that he was trustworthy. These words were truly heartwarming. Ning Shu truly understood how Mu Yenluo felt at that time. She was riddled with wounds. Suddenly, there was such a warm man who was willing to accept her all the unbearable things, willing to accept her painful past. At that time, Mu Yenluo was so moved, but the result was cruel. Under this warm appearance, there was a strong utilitarian purpose and plunder. He wanted to get Mu Yenluo's heart and conquer it. Just like doing business, he captured people's hearts. Understanding people's hearts allowed him to smoothly obtain Mu Yenluo. Only when Mu Yenluo was hanging on by a breath and disappeared did Qi Sheng understand his feelings for Mu Yenluo. Ning Shu felt like the whole zoo was in chaos. "Many thanks for young master's concern, but this servant's heart is too inferior. Without this makeup, this servant cannot go out. Only with this makeup can this servant have the confidence to face life bravely. Ning Shu said gratefully. Qi Sheng's face twitched. Why did he feel that this girl was sick? Did she not have eyes? Did she not look in the mirror? It was good that she was like this. Qi Sheng waved his hand weakly and said, as long as you are happy. Ning Shu immediately said, young master, you are really a good person. Qi Sheng was speechless. Qi Sheng's eyes scraped over Ning Shu's face inch by inch. According to his many years of identifying beauties, this girl should not be bad-looking. Why did she make herself like this? Qi Sheng suddenly said to Ning Shu, I heard that there is a meeting tonight. You go with young master. Wash your face. It's dark at night. No one can see what you look like. There is no need to put on such makeup. Ning Shu was speechless. Qi Sheng was now very interested in her true colors. Ning Shu smiled shyly and said very innocently, oh, it's so late. My mother said that I can't go out at night. Qi Sheng was speechless. Chapter 142. Qi Sheng's intention to make Ning Shu wash his face naturally fell through. Qi Sheng's eyes wandered over Ning Shu's face. Finally, he said indifferently, since you don't want to, then forget it. I heard there are many beautiful lanterns. Ning Shu was not interested in lanterns. One who was unaccountably solicitous was hiding evil intentions. What she needed to do was not to be pushed down by Qi Sheng, let alone be conquered by Qi Sheng's sugar-coated bullets. Then, she would wait for Qi Sheng's true love to come back. Ning Shu's days in the Qi mansion were very comfortable. Qi Sheng was an imperial merchant, and his family's money was even worse. His food, clothing, housing, and transportation were all top-notch. Even the food and clothes for his servants were not bad. At night, Qi Sheng actually ran to Ning Shu's room. Yuelan looked at Qi Sheng with vigilance and said bluntly, what are you doing here? Are you coveting my young miss? Ning Shu smiled at Qi Sheng and asked, young master, do you have something to tell me? There's a lantern festival tonight. I need to take my servant with me. You can come with me. Qi Sheng looked at Ning Shu with gentleness and expectation in his eyes. It made people unable to refuse him. It was as if refusing him was a cruel thing. Ning Shu said indifferently, young master, I'll go. Okay, you tidy up. I'll wait for you outside. Qi Sheng's face showed a smile. He stood up and walked out. Yuelan made a face at Qi Sheng's back and said, young miss, do you really want to go? Take me with you. This person doesn't seem to have good intentions. Ning Shu nodded and began to put on makeup in front of the mirror. Then, she changed her clothes and went out. Yuelan stared at Ning Shu with her eyes wide open. She said with a trembling voice, young miss, why can't you figure it out? Ning Shu nodded and walked towards Qi Sheng in the courtyard. Qi Sheng was very pretentious as he faced a tree and put on makeup under the tree. Ning Shu stood behind Qi Sheng and said shyly, young master, I'm done. Qi Sheng turned around and looked at Ning Shu. His eyes widened in an instant and he was speechless for a long time. Ning Shu blinked his dark eyes and looked shy. Young master, am I pretty? Qi Sheng swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His Adam's apple rolled up and down, and the expression on his face cracked. He said with difficulty, your aesthetic sense is really different from ordinary people. She had a pair of black eyes, and her face was covered in makeup. Her mouth was red, and she was wearing a bright red top and a green skirt. Qi Sheng simply did not know how to describe it. Ning Shu looked at Qi Sheng's expression as if his eyes had been raped and felt very happy. See if I don't disgust you to death. Her eyes had turned into two panda eyes, which were very dark. She was dressed in a vulgar red and green outfit, which was simply blinding. She felt great. Qi Sheng was a little impatient and his tone was a little angry. He said, didn't I say that nature is the most beautiful? Why do you have to do this makeup? Everyone is unique. Why don't you dare to face yourself? Listen to young master. Hurry up and wash the stuff on your face. Qi Xing's tone was sincere. You are my person. No one in Yi City dares to laugh at you. Ning Shu was speechless. Look at how hypocritical he was. He obviously disliked her appearance and still said that he wanted to help her rebuild her confidence. Ning Shu said, "Oh, I don't want to go later. I can't live without makeup. Please forgive me, young master." Ding, abuse points 5. 2333's voice sounded in his head. Qi Xing covered his chest. He was so angry that his chest was violently heaving up and down, and his face was a little green. Ning Shu was very naive and did not see that Qi Xing was about to die from anger. He said very gratefully, "Young master, you are really a good person. I won't go later." Ning Shu said and returned to his room. It was already so late. He might as well sleep comfortably in his bed. This time, Qi Xing did not call him. He was probably furious. "TSK, let's see how you can pretend to be gentle." Yuelon followed Ning Shu into the room and said very approvingly, "Miss should be like this. That person is obviously not a good person." After that, Qi Xing did not mention anything about the Lantern Festival. However, his face did not look good. He was probably angry. Ning Shu pretended that he did not see anything. In the end, Qi Xing could not bear it anymore. Ning Shu said helplessly, "You little girl." The doting and sweet tone in his voice made Ning Shu shiver. Damn, he had goosebumps all over his body. The plot was too abrupt. There was no substantial development between her and Qi Xing. How could he talk to her in such a tone? Ning Shu looked at Qi Xing with a pair of dazed eyes. What was wrong with this guy? Qi Xing reached out and wanted to hold Ning Shu's hand. Ning Shu took Qi Xing's hand first. Qi Xing suddenly felt that his hand was wrapped in a lump of lard. It was greasy and sticky, and it felt very disgusting. Qi Xing pulled her hand back and quickly wiped it with a handkerchief. However, she did not dare to hold Ning Shu's hand again. Ning Shu looked at Qi Xing with a shy expression and asked, "Young master, do you have something to say?" Qi Xing looked at Ning Shu with a kind of understanding, pity, and lingering gaze, which made Ning Shu's hair stand on end. "Damn, if you have something to say, just say it. Why are you looking at me like that? I already know your identity." "You have indeed suffered a lot before," Qi Xing said. He looked at Ning Shu with a look that said, I know everything." "Ning Shu, fuck you, speak human language." Ning Shu looked confused and said very innocently, "I don't understand what you're talking about, young master." Qi Xing shook his head and said in a, "I'm hurt" tone, "You still don't believe me? Do you think I'm not trustworthy? You've been with me for a long time. Don't you know what kind of person I am?" Ning Shu listened to a series of, yes, 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 and felt drunk. Besides, she had been with Qi Xing for at most half a month. "You still don't want to tell me the truth. I know your identity is Mu Yenluo, the daughter of Prime Minister Mu of Donghua Nation. Now General Situ and the Regent are looking for you. You should be careful," Qi Xing said very understandingly. Ning Shu looked at Qi Xing blankly. "I don't know what you're talking about. Who is Mu Yenluo?" "I'm Xiaohong, not Mu Yenluo." Qi Xing frowned and then relaxed. He said, "You should be careful. If others ask you in the future, you have to deny it like this. But you can trust me. Your young master can be relied on." Ning Shu nodded and said very gratefully, "Although I don't know what you're talking about, I still want to thank you. Yenluo, can you reveal your true face to me?" "I want to remember your real face," Qi Xing said very affectionately. This was his real purpose. Chapter 143. Although Ning Shu strongly denied that she was not Mu Yenluo, Qi Sheng firmly believed that Ning Shu was Mu Yenluo and looked at Ning Shu with curiosity and interest. Ning Shu did not pay attention to him at all. So what if Qi Sheng knew that he was Mu Yenluo? When his true love came back, he would immediately forget about her. Qi Sheng's various actions were just to flirt and enjoy the process of pursuing a woman. Once he got her, he would cherish her. Besides, there was still a cinnabar mole in his heart. He had someone he loved in his heart, yet he was still so unrestrained. He even went to a brothel and bought Mu Yenluo. He probably did not love his true love that much. Later on, he said that he did not love his true love anymore. It was because his kind true love was vicious and Mu Yenluo was kinder, so he fell in love with Mu Yenluo. Was this love? Because you are vicious, I don't love you anymore. I really misjudged you before. Since learning that Ning Shu was Mu Yenluo, Qi Sheng obviously treated Ning Shu much better. Qi Sheng did not let Ning Shu do many things that a maid should do. It was as if he was treating Ning Shu like a young lady. As for Qi Sheng's actions, Ning Shu did not let him do any work. Ning Shu drank tea and strolled around the garden every day. He was very carefree. Not long after, Qi Sheng's true love would come back. This true love who was gentle and amiable on the outside was evil on the inside. She disfigured the original owner and had mottled traces on her body. It could be said that she was vicious and merciless. She was a perfect example of a vicious female supporting character. Ning Shu was speechless. She was supposed to be such a character, but instead, she became the miserable female lead. What kind of mission was this? Not long after, Ning Shu saw Qi Sheng's face was full of joy. Her whole body was shrouded in pink bubbles. Ning Shu knew that the female supporting character was coming. Yenluo, Yufei is coming back. Qi Sheng said to Ning Shu. What does it have to do with me? Ning Shu asked with a puzzled expression, who is Yufei? Qi Sheng looked at Ning Shu's panda eyes and said with melancholy, she's the woman I've loved for a long time. I don't even know how long I've loved her. She's so beautiful. Now that she's come to me, it feels like a dream. Ning Shu immediately opened his bloody mouth and said with a smile, congratulations, young master. Qi Sheng wanted to reach out and hold Ning Shu's hand, but when she thought of the feeling of his hand, she didn't dare to compliment him. Ning Shu said, although Yufei is back, I will still protect you. You don't have to worry. Yufei is very kind. Even if she knows your identity, she will still protect you. Ning Shu, what the fuck? Was he trying to grab her with both hands? His true love had already returned, yet he was still giving her a guarantee. Ning Shu felt that he had learned something new. He was two-timing. It was normal. In the original plot, before his true love, Li Yufei, came back, Mu Yenluo and Qi Sheng had already done it. Qi Sheng had already gotten what he wanted. How could what he got compare to what he didn't get? Now, Ning Shu and Qi Sheng didn't even have an ambiguous relationship. Even if there was an ambiguous relationship, it was one-sided by Qi Sheng. Qi Sheng naturally comforted her. He wasn't an ordinary scum. Mu Yenluo was tortured to death by these men. In the end, she could still live happily with them. She felt drunk. Ning Shu looked at Qi Sheng with a pair of scattered eyes and said sincerely, congratulations, young master. Congratulations on having a son. Qi Sheng, sometimes, Qi Sheng wondered if this woman was really Mu Yenluo. It was so confusing. However, one of the masters and servants on the wanted poster was Yuelan. Could it be that the one named Yuelan was Mu Yenluo? But Yuelan really couldn't be called a great beauty. Qi Sheng had heard of Mu Yenluo, the #1 beauty of Donghua. However, his identity was destined to be unworthy. But now, Mu Yenluo was standing in front of him. Qi Sheng wanted to wash away the inexplicable thing on her face with a bucket of water. She was driving him to death at any moment. Then go and decorate Yufei's room. Young master believes in your taste. Qi Xing did this just to make Ning Shu jealous. However, Ning Shu wasn't jealous at all. Instead, he said happily, young master, don't worry. I'll definitely do it properly. Qi Xing suddenly thought of the smell on Ning Shu's body in his red and green clothes. His taste was really unflattering. Qi Xing quickly said, you haven't done this at home. You don't have to do it. I'll arrange for someone to do it. You're not used to doing this kind of rough work. Of course, Ning Shu knew what Qi Xing was thinking. Qi Xing was afraid that she would ruin it. However, Ning Shu's face showed an attentive smile as she said, let this servant do something for Miss Yufei. Perhaps this servant and Miss Yufei will become sisters in the future. Become sisters? Qi Xing looked at Ning Shu and thought about the meaning of Ning Shu's words. It should be what he hoped. Qi Xing stepped forward and wanted to hold Ning Shu's hand, but he stopped himself and said happily, Yufei is very kind. You'll definitely become good sisters. Bah, you're dreaming. Such a person could become the male lead. Ning Shu felt that his worldview was broken. If she was kind, then she would accept all kinds of things. If she didn't agree or accept, then she wasn't kind. Oh my, when was kindness defined like this? Hee hee. Every time he saw Qi Xing's deep affection and gentleness, Ning Shu wanted to poke his eyes blind. It was really disgusting. Ning Shu disdained Qi Xing to death. Therefore, Ning Shu's purpose was to be a matchmaker and let Qi Xing and true love be together forever. Ning Shu took Yuelan to prepare a room for his true love. Yuelan shook the quilt and said, Miss, I'm a pitiful miss. I'm a noble, but I have to do the work of a servant. If master knew, he would be very distressed. It was unknown where Prime Minister Mu was enjoying his life. There was pitifully little ink. He was just a passerby. Ning Shu took down the simple and elegant mosquito net and replaced it with an exaggerated style. The colors were red and green. All kinds of colors were messy and dazzling. It showed that she strongly welcomed the female lead. It was unknown what kind of expression the elegant and gentle female lead would have when she saw such a dazzling room. Yuelan looked at the entire room and rubbed her eyes. Miss, when did you like these colors? This, after experiencing so much, your miss realized that the colors of life should be colorful. It should be rich and colorful. Ning Shu clapped his hands and said. After Ning Shu finished decorating the room, Qi Xing wanted to go in and take a look. After all, it was his heart's cinnabar mole. He was still at the stage of pleasing Li Yufei. He was afraid that Ning Shu would mess things up. Young master, please believe in me. I will definitely give Miss Yufei a big surprise. Ning Shu stubbornly refused to let Qi Xing go in. Qi Xing tapped Ning Shu's nose and said dotingly, your young master naturally believes in you. Fuck, he didn't want his claws anymore. Chapter 144. Under Qi Xing and Ning Shu's expectations, June finally came. Qi Xing and Ning Shu waited for Li Yufei at the entrance of the Qi mansion. A carriage came and stopped in front of Ning Shu and Qi Xing. Then, the curtain was lifted, revealing a pair of white hands. Ning Shu stared at the hands, wanting to see what Li Yufei looked like. In the end, it was a maid with 2 buns on her head. After the maid got out of the carriage, a pair of white, slender, beautiful, and elegant hands reached out and rested on the maid's hands. Ning Shu felt that Qi Xing, who was next to him, was very excited. His eyes were fixed on the carriage. A woman in light yellow clothes bent down and came out of the carriage. She helped the maid's hands out of the carriage and slowly walked towards them. Her posture was elegant and beautiful, like a painting. She had a perfect oval face and a smile on the corner of her mouth. She looked elegant and beautiful. She was feminine, gentle, and amiable. Looking at her made people want to protect her. Qi Sheng had good taste. If it wasn't for Mu Yenluo, Li Yufei would probably have maintained a kind and gentle appearance. However, under the catalysis of jealousy, Li Yufei became a ruthless and vicious woman and disfigured Mu Yenluo. Before Li Yufei came over, Qi Sheng excitedly walked over and held Li Yufei's hand. With a smile on his face, he said, "Yufei, you're here." Ning Shu watched from the side. He felt that Qi Sheng liked to hold other people's hands very much. He grabbed women's hands whenever he saw them. In fact, he was a hooligan inside. Li Yufei's face showed a smile. She pulled her hand out and said, "Brother Sheng, my father asked me to say hello to you. How is uncle's health?" Qi Sheng looked at Li Yufei with a very gentle gaze. He wanted to make her pregnant. Li Yufei was a little embarrassed and blushed. The two looked at each other like this. Ning Shu squeezed over with a pair of panda eyes. Li Yufei was shocked when she saw Ning Shu's face. Her voice was a little sharp as she asked, "Who are you?" Qi Sheng introduced her to Li Yufei enthusiastically. "This is Xiao Hong. She decorated your room. She's my personal maid." When Li Yufei heard that her room was decorated by this ugly girl who was beyond recognition, her heart trembled. Her face was already ruined, so what would her room look like? Then, when she heard that it was Qi Sheng's personal maid, Li Yufei's face revealed an intimate smile. She said, "I've troubled little Hong." Ning Shu Li Yufei cracked her lips and revealed a terrifying smile. She said directly, "I heard that Miss Yufei is young master's beloved woman, so this servant tried her best to give Miss Yufei a surprise." When Ning Shu approached Li Yufei took a step back and covered her nose with a handkerchief. She said to Qi Sheng, "Brother Sheng, Yufei is a little tired. I want to rest." Qi Sheng had a gentle smile on his face. He said, "I'll take you to your room." Qi Sheng and Li Yufei walked side by side in the front. Ning Shu followed behind. When they reached the door, Qi Sheng pushed it open and said to Li Yufei, "Little Hong decorated this room especially for you." Li Yufei glanced around the room and felt that her whole body was stunned. Her face was wooden. Qi Sheng saw Li Yufei's expression and quickly turned his head. He saw that the room was colorful and inexplicable. The bead curtains were strung together in various colors. There was no order to it and it was extremely ugly. There were also vases. They were all inferior and ugly. There were actually rapeseed flowers in the vases. The style was simply too strange. "Little Hong, what are you doing? Didn't I ask you to make the room more elegant? Is this how you do it?" Qi Sheng seemed to be really angry. After all, he had lost face in front of his bright moonlight cinnabar mole. Qi Sheng resented Ning Shu in his heart. Ding! Abuse points, 5, current abuse points, 10. 2333's voice echoed in Ning Shu's mind. Why is this person's abuse point so low? Ning Shu also wanted to ask why it was so low. Qi Sheng looked gentle on the outside, but in fact, he was a very complicated and black-bellied person. After being questioned by Qi Sheng, Ning Shu's face quickly showed an aggrieved and innocent expression. He said, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I tried my best to do things well. I'm sorry, I made Miss Yufei angry." Li Yufei's smile was a little difficult to maintain. But when she thought of the purpose of this trip, she endured it and said gently, "It's okay. Little Hong didn't know my habits before. It's okay to decorate like this." Ning Shu's face immediately showed a surprised smile. He stepped forward and grabbed Li Yufei's hand. He was very touched. "Miss Yufei, you are really a good person." Li Yufei suddenly felt an unbearable stench. His hand seemed to be oily and sweaty. When he held her hand, Li Yufei felt like she was going to vomit. God, what kind of person was this? How could Qi Xing keep such a person by his side? It was so disgusting. Qi Xing seemed to know Li Yufei's current mood. He quickly rescued Li Yufei from Ning Shu's hands. As soon as she broke away from Ning Shu's hand, Li Yufei quickly wiped her hand with a handkerchief. She looked like she was going to vomit. Ning Shu smiled very foolishly. He didn't see Li Yufei's disgust at all. Go and let the kitchen prepare the food. You just need to tell them. You don't have to cook. Qi Xing added. Qi Xing knew how disgusting Ning Shu's cooking was. It was as disgusting as eating crane top hong. Ning Shu quickly said, "You really don't want me to help? Since Miss Yufei is here, this servant wants to make 2 of my signature dishes to welcome Miss Yufei." "No," Qi Xing said quickly. Qi Xing hurriedly said. He realized that his tone was too anxious, so he slowed down his voice and said gently, "No need. Yufei just arrived. She can't eat so much." When Li Yufei heard Qi Xing's words, a subtle expression flashed across her face. She frowned. What did Qi Xing mean? Did he not welcome her? Li Yufei said, "Little Hong, you really don't have to trouble yourself. Let the kitchen prepare something. I can't eat much." Ning Shu nodded and turned to leave. As soon as Ning Shu left, Qi Xing and Li Yufei both breathed a sigh of relief. The smell of this woman was really disgusting. Li Yufei quietly sniffed the handkerchief and almost vomited. Qi Xing pretended not to see Li Yufei's action and said gently to Li Yufei, "I'll let people redecorate the room later. I didn't expect Little Hong to decorate the room like this. But Little Hong is kind. Don't blame her." Qi Xing subconsciously wanted Li Yufei to have a good impression of Ning Shu. Chapter 145. Hearing Qi Xing's words, Li Yufei frowned imperceptibly and then relaxed her brows. She smiled and tilted her head to look at Qi Xing. She said mischievously, "Brother Xing, why do I feel that you're so good to this maid named Xiao Hong? Don't tell me you like her." Qi Xing immediately looked at Li Yufei with bright and affectionate eyes. He reached out and tapped the tip of Li Yufei's nose. He said unhappily but dotingly, "How can you say that about your brother Xing? Don't you know what kind of person your brother Xing is?" Li Yufei wrinkled her nose and said, "Brother Xing, you didn't answer Yufei's question directly. Do you like that girl named Xiao Hong? If you really like her, I can help you." Qi Xing shook his head and said firmly, "Don't think too much. She's just my personal maid. Because she's too ugly, she always likes strange makeup. In fact, she's a pitiful person." Hearing that Xiao Hong was ugly, Li Yufei breathed a sigh of relief. After all, an ugly woman was not competitive. She had said so much before just to test whether Qi Xing still loved her. Most women knew that a man liked them, but Li Yufei ignored Qi Xing's love. Li Yufei and Qi Xing were childhood sweethearts. Their families were family friends and they were both merchants. Qi Xing liked Li Yufei, but Li Yufei had higher ambitions in her heart. Naturally, she didn't like Qi Xing. This time, she came to Qi Xing because there was a problem with her family's business and she needed his help. However, she couldn't resist Qi Xing's male lead halo. In addition, there was the beautiful Mu Yenluo who liked Qi Xing. It was good to have someone to fight for things. Besides, Li Yufei and Qi Xing had sex. Naturally, she fell in love with Qi Xing. She fell in love with Qi Xing with the intention of using him. Ning Shu first went to the kitchen and asked someone to cook. Then, he went to the room and saw Yuelan embroidering something. He took an apple and gnawed on it. Looking at Yuelan's embroidery, he said, "You're embroidering bamboo. This is for a man. Yuelan, do you have a man?" Yuelan's face instantly turned red. She muttered, "Miss, what are you talking about? This servant doesn't have a man. Don't slander this servant's innocence." Ning Shu took a bite of the apple and said with a smile, "It's time to give something. Why isn't there a man? Tell me, who is it? Is it someone from the Qi mansion?" Ning Shu looked at Yulan with wide eyes. Yulan immediately said, "It's not what Miss thinks. It's who? Qi Sheng." Ning Shu stared at Yulan, dumbfounded. Although Qi Sheng was good-looking and rich, he was a scumbag who wanted to have a foot in two boats. He was absolutely not worthy of his little sister Yulan. Yulan looked at Ning Shu in a daze and asked, "What does this have to do with Qi Sheng? Who is Qi Sheng?" After all this time, Yulan still didn't know the name of the owner of this house. Ning Shu asked, "Then who are you giving this to?" Yulan's face was very red. She said shyly, "Miss, don't ask. Your lipstick is smudged. You should go touch up your makeup. Don't try to divert your miss's attention. Tell me, it's that man. I want to see if that man can be entrusted with my life." Ning Shu said seriously. In fact, Ning Shu still liked little sister Yulan. Although she was a bit thick-skinned, she was a good girl. It was good to be able to settle this girl's marriage before leaving. Yulan said, "Miss, this servant really doesn't have a man. This servant is planning to make a pair of shoes for the shadow guard. Last time, this servant saw that the shadow guard's shoes were broken. The shadow guard has worked so hard to protect us, so we have to repay him." Ning Shu's face was suddenly enlightened. He nodded and said, "So that's how it is." Thinking of the shadow guard's square face and then looking at Yulan's delicate and pretty appearance, would there be any sparks between the two of them? Ning Shu originally wanted to ask Yulan about her feelings for the shadow guard, but then he thought about it. How could he say anything about feelings? Ning Shu applied lipstick in front of the mirror and then went to serve Qi Sheng and Li Yufei. When they arrived at the living room, Qi Sheng and Li Yufei were already eating. Ning Shu hurriedly said, "Young master, why didn't you call this servant to serve you the meal? Miss Yufei, this servant will serve you the dishes." Li Yufei's face was a little ugly, but she endured it. Ning Shu smiled reluctantly and said, "Xiao Hong, there's no need. I can do it myself. You can serve your young master." Ning Shu immediately said to Qi Sheng, "Then, young master, this servant will serve you." Qi Sheng frowned and covered his nose with his hand. Ning Shu said gently, "There's no need. You can also go and eat. Yufei and I don't need you to serve us." Ning Shu naturally knew that these two people despised her. Disgusting to death. People usually couldn't smell their own bodies, so Ning Shu didn't think that she smelled that bad. However, seeing these two people trying their best to hold it in, but not wanting to say it out loud, it was really refreshing. Qi Sheng and Li Yufei were the same kind of people. They were more hypocritical. They looked one way on the surface, but their hearts were different. Now, one was beautiful and gentle, and the other was gentle and amiable. They disliked her so much in their hearts. How can this be? This servant is the young master's personal maid. Naturally, I have to serve the young master. Ning Shu picked up the chopsticks and picked up a piece of chicken. However, he didn't hold it firmly. The chicken fell into the chicken soup. The soup splashed and splashed on Li Yufei. Li Yufei jumped up from the chair with a cry. Then, she realized that her actions were not gentle. She bit her lips tightly, looking a little wronged. She looked at Qi Sheng with a pair of watery eyes. Qi Sheng also frowned. Ning Shu's face showed panic and apology. He quickly took out a handkerchief with the scent of flowers mixed with the smell of feet and wiped the oil stains on Li Yufei's body. Li Yufei was about to vomit because of this strange smell. She pushed Ning Shu away and said to Qi Sheng with grievance, "Brother Sheng, do you not welcome Yufei? Is that why you let your personal maid do this? If Brother Sheng wants Yufei to leave, Yufei will leave immediately. Hurry up and leave. Look at what you've done." Qi Sheng shouted at Ning Shu. Ning Shu curled her lips and said, "This servant didn't mean it. Get out." Qi Xing pretended to be angry, but he secretly winked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu saw that Qi Sheng's eyes were constantly cramping and hurriedly asked with concern, "Young master, what's wrong with your eyes? They keep cramping." "Poor young master, please don't go blind." Qi Sheng was speechless. Li Yufei also asked with concern, "Brother Sheng, are you okay?" Qi Sheng felt so sad. He had never seen anyone as stupid as Xiao Hong. Chapter 146. Qi Sheng told Ning Shu sternly, "You can leave now. You don't need to serve here." Ning Shu was still hesitant. Qi Sheng said coldly, "Leave. If you don't listen to the young master, do you want to be sold?" Ning Shu turned around and left without saying a word. Qi Sheng then said to Li Yufei, "Yufei, don't think too much. This girl is clumsy and always causes problems. How can I bear to drive you away? You know how I feel about her." Li Yufei smiled and asked, "Why is this maid so clumsy? Brother Sheng, why do you keep this girl by your side? Also, this maid has a strange smell on her. Can Brother Sheng bear it?" Qi Sheng was speechless. He kept this girl by his side because she might be the most beautiful woman in the world, Mu Yen Luo. Qi Sheng naturally would not give up on such a good thing, even if he had Li Yufei in his heart. As a man, it was okay to have a taste of something new. "Brother Sheng, why don't you answer Yufei?" Li Yufei asked with a frown. Qi Sheng held Li Yufei's hand tightly and said affectionately, "Yufei, can't you see? Why do you ask me such a question? I've always only had you in my heart. In this life, I want you to be my wife." Li Yufei immediately lowered her head shyly and did not speak. Qi Sheng's heart swayed. He lowered his head and kissed Li Yufei. Then, they began to talk. On the way, Ning Shu found that he had lost his handkerchief, so he went back to look for it. This handkerchief had the most authentic smell. It would be a pity to lose it. Ning Shu had just walked into the courtyard when he heard the movements in the room. Ning Shu was stunned. Weren't they eating just now? How could they be in bed now? Besides, Li Yufei had just arrived at the Qi mansion today. How could she be so unreserved and roll around with the male lead? Sure enough, there was no logic in this world. In Li Yufei's opinion, as long as she caught Qi Sheng, her family would be able to survive the crisis. But in the end, she fell in love with Qi Sheng. This was the plot. She was destined to catch the adulterers. Ning Shu touched his chin. How was she going to catch the adulterers? Ning Shu quietly walked in and walked to the side of the bed. The two people on the bed were fighting and did not notice that there was someone standing next to them. Ning Shu looked at the two white-cut chicken in all kinds of positions, and his face revealed an intoxicated expression. He was very engrossed. Ning Shu suddenly said, "Young master, do you need this servant to prepare the bath water for you?" "Ah!" Li Yufei quickly wrapped her arms around her chest and let out an earth-shattering scream. She immediately pushed Qi Sheng away. Qi Sheng's doppelganger was immediately exposed. It was like a pillar supporting the sky. Then, it was released. Li Yufei's face was covered in it. Then, Li Yufei screamed again. After being scared by Ning Shu and Li Yufei, Qi Sheng, who had just been released, immediately went limp. He felt like he couldn't stand up anymore. "TSK, TSK, TSK. What a dirty scene. You guys need to remove it." Qi Sheng's face was ashen. Ning Shu shouted, "Get out. Who let you in? Get out." After Li Yufei screamed, she calmed down. She loosened her hands from her chest and released her turbulent breasts. She trembled as if she was deliberately showing off to Ning Shu. Ning Shu straightened his chest. "You're big. I'm bigger than you. I'm fuller than you. You're drooping. The two people on the bed had no intention of wearing clothes. They simply had no sense of shame. How could you guys be so licentious? Qi Xing roared at Ning Shu. This young master told you to get out. You don't want to leave. Do you want to stay together? Ning Shu almost vomited in disgust. Looking at Qi Xing swaggering around to dry his little bird, he was shameless. Li Yufei and Qi Xing's bodies were pressed together. Ning Shu felt like his eyes were going blind. This servant will go prepare the bath water for young master. By the way, young master, you were frightened by Miss Yufei's scream. Do you need medicine? Ning Shu asked very considerately. Ding, abuse level 15. Current abuse level 20. 2333 hurriedly said, Ning Shu, you can't look. If you look at this thing too much, you'll get a needle eye. You're not pure anymore. Get out. Qi Xing was so angry that Ning Shu roared. Ning Shu hurriedly said, this servant will get out now. Young master, have fun. By the way, if you need medicine, this servant will prepare it for you. This servant will really get out. This servant will get out now. Ning Shu saw that Qi Xing's face was very scary. There was no trace of his usual gentle appearance. He guessed that he had really pissed him off. After leaving the door, Ning Shu didn't leave. Instead, he hid by the window and listened to what was going on inside. Ning Shu, why are you doing this? You've changed. You weren't like this before. You used to be very pure. 2333 said. Ning Shu directly said, do you know me? If you don't, then don't talk nonsense. Previously, the system recorded that you were very pure. Why have you changed now? You only peeped at other people's sex once in a few missions. Now you're actually peeping at other people's sex. 2333 seemed to be wiping tears. I've changed. What does it have to do with you? If you have the ability, then don't bring me to this crazy world. Ning Shu's forehead was full of black lines. Now you're blaming me for being impure. What does it have to do with you? 2333 was sad. How can you be so fierce to me? Although I'm the mainframe, I have emotions too. We'll be partners in the future. Maybe we'll be tied together forever. You should be nicer to me. Then can I change to another system? I don't want you. Ning Shu said bluntly. Humph, I'll never talk to you again. 2333 went into hiding. Ning Shu and 2333 were arguing. Inside, Qi Sheng and Li Yufei were also talking. What's wrong, brother Sheng? Why can't you get up? Try it. Qi Sheng's voice was a little anxious. Ning Shu looked through the window and saw Qi Sheng kneeling on the bed. Li Yufei was trying her best to tease him, but little Qi Sheng was soft. Brother Sheng, this isn't very good. Yufei has never tried it before. Li Yufei said very shyly. However, Qi Sheng's expression was very bad. He directly pressed Li Yufei's head down and pressed her under him. Then, the scene was very dirty. Ning Shu rubbed his eyes and continued to watch. But unfortunately, after Li Yufei's efforts, little Qi Sheng still didn't get up. Ning Shu thought silently. Could it be that he was so scared that he became impotent? Amitba. How many women would not fall into his evil hands? His little brother didn't feel anything, which made Qi Sheng angry and scared. He pushed Li Yufei in front of him away. Li Yufei was stunned and called out sadly, Brother Sheng. Ning Shu saw that Qi Sheng's face was ashen, but he still wanted to comfort Li Yufei. Ning Shu felt very happy in his heart. Yufei, I'm tired today. Qi Sheng said and kissed Li Yufei's head perfunctorily. Then, he began to put on his clothes. Chapter 147. It seemed that the situation in the room would not continue. Little brother Qi Sheng was dying. Ning Shu saw that there was nothing else, so she quickly ran back to her room. She took out the whistle on her chest and blew it. Seeing Ning Shu blow the whistle, Yulan hurriedly put down her subordinate's shoe and asked, "Miss, did something happen? Ask the shadow guard to come out." Of course, something happened. Now that Qi Sheng was dying, he would definitely come back to find her. Although Li Yufei was also involved, the main reason was still her. Now that she was courting death, Ning Shu came to the shadow guard for protection. "I'm the silly and sweet female lead. I need protection." After blowing the whistle for a while, the shadow guard jumped in from the window. She was dressed in black and had a mask on her face. "Miss, what's the matter?" the shadow guard asked. Ning Shu said, "I just want to see if you're around. My life is in danger recently. You must appear when I blow the whistle." The shadow guard looked at Ning Shu, paused and asked, "Miss, what did you do?" Ning Shu said very innocently, "I didn't do anything. There are always unruly people who want to harm your Mississippi, you have to be careful recently. Maybe someone wants to deal with your Mississippi. You must protect your Mississippi," Ning Shu's shadow guard said. The shadow guard's eyes were filled with disdain as she said, "I know. By the way, Yulan made a pair of shoes for you," Ning Shu's shadow guard said. The shadow guard immediately looked at Yulan. Yulan's face immediately turned red. She stomped her feet and said to Ning Shu, "Miss, how can you say it so quickly? Why can't I say it?" Ning Shu looked at Yulan. The shadow guard thanked Yulan and jumped out of the window. Ning Shu said, "If I say it, you won't be able to give the shadow guard a surprise." Yulan looked at Ning Shu and pursed her lips. She was about to cry. "You're making this servant embarrassed." Ning Shu said, "Oh, you won't be embarrassed if you secretly give the shoes to the shadow guard." Ning Shu admitted that he did it on purpose. "Miss, why are you like this? You've changed. You weren't like this before." Yulan looked sadly at Ning Shu. "Damn it. Today, all of them told her that you've changed. It's fine. If you really can't make 2 pairs, you'll be pleasantly surprised. Originally, Big Brother Shadow Guard thought that you would only receive 1 pair of shoes, but in the end, you received 2 pairs. Aren't you pleasantly surprised?" Ning Shu comforted Yulan. Yulan looked at Ning Shu with tears in her eyes. "Miss, how can you be like this? There's clearly nothing, but after hearing what you said, I feel like there's something." "There's clearly nothing, so how can this servant take a fancy to the shadow guard's wooden face?" Ning Shu quickly covered Yulan's mouth and said to her, "Although what you said is the truth, you can't say it so casually. If this is heard by Big Brother Shadow Guard, what if Big Brother Shadow Guard leaves heartbroken?" Yulan shook her head. Ning Shu released Yulan's mouth. Yulan said, "This servant thinks that Hidden Guard Gij is a good person." After being given the good person card, there was usually no play. Sure enough, as Ning Shu expected, Qi Sheng came to find her at night. Ning Shu felt very speechless. What couldn't be said during the day? Why did he have to wait until night time? She could tell that this guy had bad intentions. When Ning Shu opened the door, Qi Sheng was holding a folding fan in his hand. He leaned against the door in a very handsome and lazy manner. When he saw Ning Shu, he said, "Little Red, take a walk with young master. Young master has something to say to you." Ning Shu blinked her panda eyes and asked, "What's the matter?" "Young master, it's so late. What do you have to say to this servant? This servant wants to sleep now." Qi Sheng frowned and looked at Ning Shu's face. He asked, "Don't you wash your face at night? Why do you sleep with makeup on at night? This lead powder is very bad for the skin. Go wash your face and take a walk with young master." Ning Shu touched her face shyly and said, "This servant likes this makeup. Even if I sleep, I don't want to wash my face. Qi Sheng's eyes flashed with anger, but he quickly suppressed it. Ning Shu said gently, "It's okay. Take a walk with young master." Ning Shu followed behind Qi Sheng. Qi Sheng walked very slowly in front of him. His posture was very elegant and lazy. Under the bright moonlight, he was like a person in a painting. Qi Sheng did not speak, and neither did Ning Shu. When they reached the pavilion, Qi Sheng sat on the stone bench and did not speak. To be honest, when Ning Shu saw Qi Sheng's current appearance, the image of Qi Sheng taking off his clothes and cutting a chicken appeared in his mind. The koi fish swam in the pool under the pavilion, making a little noise from time to time. It was like a ghost, making Ning Shu's hair stand on end. He felt that the surroundings were a little gloomy. Young master, the moon tonight is really big and round. Ning Shu broke the silence. Qi Sheng looked at Ning Shu. Under the cold moonlight, her face was very pale. Her eyes were dark, and her lips were red. She looked like a ghost. Qi Sheng looked away and said, "I want to talk about what happened at noon." "What happened at noon?" Ning Shu touched the whistle on his chest, in case Qi Sheng was really scared to the point of impotence. Did he come to take revenge on her? Ning Shu took 2 steps back and asked, "Young master, what do you want to talk about?" Qi Sheng said to Ning Shu, "Sit down. I want to talk to you about Yufei." Ning Shu, "Get lost. What is there to talk about?" "Yufei is the girl I have loved since childhood. We will definitely be married in the future." Qi Sheng looked at Ning Shu with a forced and affectionate gaze. "I hope you can understand." Of course this servant can understand. "Congratulations, young master," Ning Shu said very straightforwardly. Qi Sheng's face suddenly showed joy. He stood up and wanted to grab Ning Shu's hand, but then he withdrew his hand and said, "Young master knows you are a kind-hearted person. When Yufei and I are married, I will let Yufei accept you. Yufei is a kind-hearted person like you." Qi Sheng said happily. What the fuck? Ning Shu really wanted to slap him. After all this time, this guy wanted to have his cake and eat it too. He wanted to marry his true love and take her as a concubine. Damn, he thought this guy couldn't take it anymore and came to him for an explanation. He came in the middle of the night to have a heart-to-heart talk and flirt. The male lead's ability was really not for show. This was fine. He should get rid of the root of the problem. Nothing would happen. Ning Shu couldn't understand. She had already ruined herself like this. She was so unbearable to look at, but Qi Sheng could still hypnotize himself and think that she was a great beauty. Ning Shu showed a shy smile. Young Master and Miss Yufei are a match made in heaven. Young Master said that Miss Yufei is the best woman in the world. Young Master should take good care of Miss Yufei. Why does Young Master want Miss Yufei to accept this servant? This servant has the appearance of a willow. I really don't want to get involved in the great love between Young Master and Miss Yufei. Chapter 148. Ning Shu almost wanted to kneel down in front of Qi Sheng's logic. He did it with another woman at noon, then came to find her at night and let her share a husband with his true love. It was simply ridiculous. Ning Shu really wanted to ask Qi Sheng if he really loved his true love. It was simply wanton and unrestrained. Did it mean that he could hide his love in his heart and do whatever he wanted with his body as long as he loved her in his heart? What a scumbag. Ning Shu twitched the corner of his mouth and looked at Qi Sheng, who looked very elegant under the moonlight, and said, "Young Master, do you love Miss Yufei?" Qi Sheng nodded and said, "Yes, I have loved her for many years." Ning Shu was speechless. Since he loved her so much, why did he talk to another woman in the middle of the night behind Li Yufei's back? Was his love so overflowing? Or did Qi Sheng just want to cheat her? No matter what, Ning Shu despised Qi Sheng. I believe that Yufei will accept you. You will love each other. You are both kind women. Qi Sheng's expression was a little painful. Recently, I found that I have fallen in love with you. I can't give up either of you or Yufei. Damn it, Ning Shu was disgusted to death. Damn it, there was no normal male protagonist in this world. One had a tragic childhood and a dark heart, one was a chauvinist and straight man, and one was a womanizer who cheated and cheated. Damn it, he didn't know what kind of man the latter was. If he was sick, he should go to see a doctor. Why torture Mu Yenluo? If either of you leaves me, I will be in so much pain that I want to die. Qi Sheng looked at Ning Shu affectionately. Ning Shu swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He really wanted to spit on this bastard's face. Yenluo, I will die without you. Qi Sheng hardened his heart and grabbed Ning Shu's hand. His expression suddenly changed, but he still firmly grabbed Ning Shu's hand. Then go to hell. Ning Shu withdrew her hand and shyly lowered her head. This servant is very ugly and is not worthy of young master. No, I know you're doing this to protect yourself. I once went to the capital to see you. I only saw you from afar and knew that you were a peerless beauty. Your eyes were as clear as water and your hair was as green as clouds. I can understand why you're doing this. Ning Shu was speechless. No wonder this guy tolerated her so much. It turned out that he knew what Mu Yenluo looked like. Ning Shu blinked his dark and misty eyes, completely different from what Qi Sheng had described. Ning Shu shook his head and said, "Young master, my name is Xiao Hong, not Mu Yenluo." "Young master, have you lost your mind? Take your medicine." Qi Sheng said rather dotingly, Okay. You are Xiao Hong, not Mu Yenluo. When people ask you in the future, you have to say this. After all, Mu Yenluo is very famous. You will be in danger. Every word was filled with falsehood and coquettishness. Ning Shu dared to kneel down and swear to the heavens that Qi Sheng, this bastard, wanted to possess this body. What happened next was that as they did it, he fell in love with her and was tortured by the supporting female lead, Li Yufei. After that, Qi Sheng suddenly realized that the person he loved was Mu Yenluo and not that vicious woman, Li Yufei. He really loved her in the past. It turned out that she was so vicious. Her gentleness and kindness in the past were all fake blah blah blah. Qi Sheng approached Ning Shu and wanted to kiss Ning Shu's forehead gently, but as soon as he got close, he smelled a greasy and disgusting scalp smell. Qi Sheng changed his position and wanted to kiss his cheek, but the thick rouge and powder on his face made him unable to do so. In the end, he could only give up. Ning Shu sneered in his heart. He knew that Qi Sheng couldn't do it. He didn't even bother to hide. Qi Sheng's target was the peerless beauty Mu Yenluo, not the stinky and ugly Xiao Hong. Ning Shu looked at Qi Sheng and asked, "Young master, does Miss Yufei know that you came to see me?" Qi Sheng shook his head and said, "Yufei doesn't know, but I don't think she will mind." "You think too much." Ning Shu's mouth twitched. He shivered and said, "Oh, it's quite cold at night. I'm going back to sleep." As soon as Ning Shu turned around, Qi Sheng grabbed his hand. Ning Shu turned his head and looked at Qi Sheng with his thick eyebrows raised. Under the moonlight, Qi Sheng was a little scared by Ning Shu's face. He showed a gentle smile and said, "Cover yourself well at night. Don't catch a cold." "Big brother, what are you talking about? It's summer now. You should say don't get bitten by mosquitoes. That's too perfunctory." Ning Shu nodded and said with a serious face, "I know. Young master, you must also cover yourself with a quilt." Ning Shu waved his sleeves and left without the slightest reluctance. Then, under Qi Sheng's gaze, he ran away like a wisp of smoke. Back in the room, Yuelan immediately checked Ning Shu from head to toe and asked, "Miss, are you okay?" "I'm fine. How can something happen to your miss?" Ning Shu waved her hand. Yuelan was a little worried. She looked at Ning Shu and said, "Miss, let's leave here. I feel that young master has bad intentions towards you." It was the same in the Prime Minister's residence. It's still the same in a different place. Why are these men so annoying? Your miss has a constitution of accidents. She's like this wherever she goes. Mu Yen Luo would attract men's attention wherever she went. Yulan sighed, and then began to cry. She stammered, "Previously, Mrs. Beauty was well known throughout the world. Who in the world didn't say that Miss had a good life? But now it has become like this. This servant is pitiful Mississippi, oh my God," the tears came out without even brewing. This girl was the real movie queen. The female lead wasn't beautiful, so how could she make those men obsessed? In the end, they gave up everything and lived in seclusion with the female lead. If she wasn't beautiful, how could they get her? Ning Shu raised her hand and said, "Don't cry. Although your miss is ugly now, she still has breasts." Yuelan was speechless. Qi Xing thought that he had made it clear to Ning Shu that night. It seemed that Ning Shu had also agreed to his proposal. So, the next day, he looked at Ning Shu with ambiguous and teasing eyes. Li Yufei saw Qi Sheng's eyes and suddenly felt a sense of crisis in her heart. She and Qi Sheng had already done the deed of husband and wife. Qi Sheng was especially charming in bed. Li Yufei's heart was moved. Li Yufei was still using Qi Sheng's feelings to save her family's business. But now, Li Yufei really fell in love with Qi Sheng. Not only did the female lead have the ability to make the male lead fall in love with the female lead after having sex, but the male lead also had this ability. Moreover, it was very lethal to the female supporting characters and female cannon fodder. Usually, these female supporting characters and female cannon fodder would be jealous of the male lead's infatuation with the female lead. Then, they would do something vicious to hurt the female lead. Therefore, when Ning Shu felt two pairs of eyes staring at her, she suddenly had the urge to pour the hot soup on these two people. Chapter 149. Ning Shu was speechless. Now that she had ruined herself to this extent, she still attracted Li Yufei's hatred. Now, Li Yufei's gaze was especially sharp and vigilant. It was as if she was examining her, as if she wanted to see through her. Ning Shu put the hot soup on the table and smiled like an idiot. She said to Qi Sheng and Li Yufei, "Young master, Miss Yufei, the soup is here." Qi Sheng said, "There's no need to serve here. You can leave." Li Yufei also said gently, "Xiao Hong, you can leave. Come to my room later. Your makeup is really not exquisite enough. I'll teach you other techniques later." Ning Shu was speechless. Li Yufei probably wanted to know her true appearance. Qi Sheng's eyes lit up and he said, "You should get closer and let Yufei teach you makeup." Ning Shu didn't pay attention to the two of them at all. Since she didn't want anyone to serve her, she immediately left. Ning Shu returned to the room and saw Yuelan eating. Ning Shu suddenly thought of something. What did Brother Secret Guard eat? Ning Shu asked Yuelan, "Has your hidden guard brother eaten yet?" Yuelan put down her chopsticks and pouted. Ning Shu said, "He's not my brother. The secret guard has already eaten. This servant makes an extra portion every time I eat. By the time Miss remembers, the secret guard has already starved to death. Oh, it's Miss's fault. Fortunately, Yuelan, this little cutie, thinks about the secret guard. Otherwise, the secret guard would really starve to death." Ning Shu patted Yuelan's shoulder and said, "In the future, when Miss is not here, you and your brother secret guard can support each other." Yuelan quickly said, "How can Miss not be here? This servant must be by Miss's side. This servant is Miss's person in life and will be Miss's ghost in death." Okay. Ning Shu waved his hand. "Your Miss knows your intentions." Yuelan's eyes were watery again. Miss, no matter where you go, you must take this servant with you. He felt that this girl's tears were like tap water. As soon as the tap was turned on, tears would flow out. I'll definitely bring you along. Don't worry, Ning Shu said. You're little red. My young miss wants to see you. A maid walked in and saw Ning Shu's face. Her eyes flashed with disdain. Hurry up, my miss wants to see you. Hurry up, and young master Qi Sheng is also waiting. You'd better hurry up and not let the masters wait for too long. It seemed that Li Yufei wanted her to wash her face clean. Hurry up, what are you dawdling for? The young maidservant snapped at Ning Shu. Ning Shu pursed her lips and followed the maidservant to Li Yufei's courtyard. She walked into the room and saw that the previous colorful dress had been removed. Now, all the decorations were expensive and elegant. It was completely different from the vulgar style she used to wear. Qi Sheng was sitting in the hall. When he saw Ning Shu, he quickly said to Ning Shu, you really should change your image. Li Yufei also said, go take a shower first. Li Yufei wanted to wash away the strange smell on her body, but with Qi Sheng next to her, she naturally couldn't say that. Ning Shu didn't want to expose her face at all. She didn't want to be disfigured by Li Yufei. It was very painful to be cut by a knife on the face. A woman's jealousy was really terrible. The hot water is ready. Go take a shower. After that, I'll teach you how to put on makeup. Li Yufei saw that Ning Shu didn't move and said another sentence. Ning Shu sat on the ground with a plop, startling Qi Sheng and Li Yufei. Li Yufei quickly said, Little Red, what are you doing? Get up quickly. The ground is cold. Qi Sheng said, if you have anything to say, we can all make decisions for you. Ning Shu cried and said, Miss Yufei, please don't let me remove my makeup. Otherwise, I really can't see anyone. Why is that? Li Yufei asked in surprise. I'm actually very ugly. The right side of my face has a black birthmark. That's why I put a thick layer of powder on my face to cover it. As Ning Shu spoke, she wiped off the powder on her face with her sleeve and then revealed the dark skin under the foundation. It was really dark and looked very disgusting. Qi Sheng was stunned for a moment and asked, why do you have a birthmark? Your birthmark is fake, right? It's fake, isn't it? When Ning Shu saw Qi Sheng's disillusioned and nauseous look, she spat in her heart. Qi Sheng slammed the folding fan on the table and then clenched it tightly in his hand. Blue veins appeared on the back of his hand and his face was ferocious for a moment. He turned to Li Yufei and said, I have something to do. I'll leave first. You guys go ahead. Then he left without looking back. Li Yufei looked at Ning Shu's dark half-face and smiled more gently. She said, since you're like this, I won't force you. You can go. Then Ning Shu turned and left. On the way back, he met a livid Qi Sheng. Qi Sheng frowned and looked at Ning Shu and asked, are you really not Mu Yanluo? Ning Shu blinked her panda eyes and said, young master, when did I say that I'm Mu Yanluo? I've always emphasized that I'm Xiao Hong, which means small and red. I'm not Mu Yanluo. Young master, you've always said that I'm Mu Yanluo. I've always denied it. Ning Shu stepped on Qi Sheng's sore spot. Abuse points, 10. Current abuse points, 20. 2333's voice was a little violent. Why are there so few abuse points, Ning Shu? How the hell would I know? It would be strange if someone with a fox's mind didn't get abused so easily. Then what's the matter with the maid beside you? She's a wanted person. Qi Sheng was still making his final struggle. Ning Shu looked at Qi Sheng with his dark half-face and said in a suppressed voice, that maid is a wanted criminal. I'm not very clear about this. Actually. Ning Shu lowered his head shyly and said, I met this maid halfway. At that time, she was lying in the middle of the road. My father and I saved her. Later, my father passed away. I told her to call me Mississippi. My father isn't a high-ranking official. It was all for vanity's sake. Young master, enough, don't say any more. Qi Xing covered his face with his hands and rubbed them twice. Why did you lie to me? Why did you lie to me? When Ning Shu heard this, she almost spat at Qi Xing's face. Ning Shu widened her misty eyes and asked in shock, when has this servant ever lied to you? This servant has never lied to you. Qi Xing's face twitched and he roared loudly, Xiao Hong is a fake name. I thought you were Mu Yen Luo. What's wrong with Xiao Hong? I have an older brother called Xiao Ming. I'm called Xiao Hong. Ning Shu nodded firmly. Qi Xing covered his heart and said, get lost. I don't want to see you now. How dare you lie to me? Ning Shu turned and ran away. Chapter 150. Ever since Qi Xing found out that Ning Shu wasn't Mu Yen Luo, her attitude towards Ning Shu had changed drastically. The tea she brewed was either too hot or too cold. She covered her nose and bluntly said that Ning Shu smelled very bad. She almost bluntly said, you're so ugly, why don't you die? However, she didn't directly drive Ning Shu away. She still let Ning Shu be her personal maidservant. She guessed that there was still some connection between the male and female leads. Ning Shu still had dark circles under her eyes and bright red lips every day, swaying in front of Qi Xing. Qi Xing's attitude towards her was very bad, but strangely, Li Yufei's attitude towards her was unprecedentedly good. It was so good that Ning Shu's hair stood on end. She didn't understand what was wrong with Li Yufei. Did she want to be good friends with her? Was it because she was ugly now that she could set off Li Yufei's peerless beauty? Come, Xiao Hong, this pouch is for you. There are some pieces of silver in it. Go and buy some rouge and face powder. Li Yufei handed a pouch to Ning Shu. In the face of the female lead's charity, as a dignified female lead, she should righteously refuse and defend her dignity. Ning Shu quickly took the pouch and said with a smile, thank you, Miss Yufei. Ning Shu opened the pouch in front of Li Yufei. There were many pieces of silver in it. She opened her mouth wide and smiled brightly at Li Yufei. With a sneaky face, she said to Li Yufei, Miss Yufei, is there anything I can do for you? By medicine, by sex toys, Ning Shu felt that he could do it for her. Li Yufei took 2 steps back and covered her nose with a handkerchief. She said, no, it's just that I see that your rouge and face powder are cheap. You can use this money to buy some good ones. Xiao Hong, your brother Xing's personal maidservant. Your appearance also represents brother Xing's face. Even if you don't pay attention to your image, you still have to think about brother Xing's face. Facing such humiliation from the supporting female lead, the female lead should be righteous and unyielding. You can insult my character, but you can't insult my dignity. Miss Yufei, although I, Xiao Hong, am ugly, I still have my dignity. Ning Shu puffed up his chest and rubbed it against Li Yufei's chest. Although I'm ugly, my chest is bigger than yours. Li Yufei, Qi Xing came back from outside and saw Ning Shu and Li Yufei together. First, Ning Shu snorted coldly, and then he said to Li Yufei gently, how are you at home? Li Yufei's smile was exceptionally gentle. Her entire body seemed to be covered with a layer of holy and gentle light. Brother Xing, Yufei has prepared the meal. Let's go eat, Li Yufei said shyly to Qi Xing. Qi Xing glanced at Ning Shu, took Li Yufei's hand, and said, I know Yufei knows my taste the best. The food you make must be to my taste. Li Yufei's smile became even more bashful. Ning Shu couldn't figure out what was there to be shy about. Qi Xing turned around and coldly said to Ning Shu, what are you waiting for? Come and serve Yufei and me. You're now a personal maid. Ning Shu pursed his bloody mouth. Li Yufei hurriedly persuaded Qi Xing, she's your personal maid. If there's anything she doesn't do well, just teach her more in the future. Qi Xing looked coldly at Ning Shu, and then said to Li Yufei, "You're the kindest person. Some people just don't change. If it weren't for the 20 taels of silver, I would have kicked her out long ago." Ning Shu, thought she felt that Qi Sheng was really awkward now. This bastard probably felt that she had cheated on his feelings. Nonsense. Qi Sheng clearly wanted to cheat on her feelings, but now he was playing the blame game. He was simply shameless. Qi Sheng and Li Yufei entered the room hand in hand. Ning Shu followed behind them and served them food. Qi Sheng clearly couldn't stand the stench on her body, but he still insisted on letting her serve him by his side. He was really sick. "Brother Sheng, drink this soup. Yufei specially prepared it for you. It's very hard to be busy with business every day." Li Yufei scooped up the soup with a spoon. Qi Sheng revealed a gentle smile on his face. He directly grabbed Li Yufei's hand, brought the spoon in Li Yufei's hand to him, and drank it with a look of enjoyment. Looking at Qi Sheng's rippling appearance, Ning Shu thought that he was drinking an aphrodisiac. "Yufei, you drink too." Qi Sheng scooped a spoonful of soup and brought it to Li Yufei. Li Yufei drank it sweetly. After Qi Sheng and Li Yufei finished their meal, Ning Shu stood at the side and stared blankly at the pink bubbles rising from their bodies. She felt her teeth ache unbearably. It was too pretentious. Qi Sheng and Li Yufei were the same kind of people. They used a harmless and gentle mask to hide their hearts. Li Yufei's heart was not as gentle and kind as her appearance. Qi Sheng's heart was also not as tolerant and gentle as he showed. These two people were really a match made in heaven. "Ha! Get out!" Qi Sheng glanced at Ning Shu from the corner of his eyes. Ning Shu was about to doze off, but when he heard Qi Sheng's words, he immediately turned around and left. Qi Sheng gritted his teeth and said, "Close the door and wait outside. You're not allowed to leave. Just wait outside." Ning Shu was stunned when he heard that he had to close the door. Why would he close the door in broad daylight? He was taking a nap at noon. Ning Shu saw Li Yufei's blushing face and suddenly became a Spartan. What a beast! He was going to do it in broad daylight. The worst thing was that Qi Sheng actually asked her to wait outside the door. Could his taste be more unique? Did he think that he was the emperor's favorite concubine? Why would he want someone to wait outside? Ning Shu looked at Qi Sheng with an expression that said, "You're so dirty." Qi Sheng automatically interpreted Ning Shu's expression as envy and jealousy. He said faintly and very pretentiously, "What are you waiting for? Get out and close the door." Ning Shu turned around and went out, then closed the door. He leaned against the door and kept rolling his eyes. After a while, there were ambiguous sounds in the room. There were all kinds of flirtatious sounds that made people blush. There was also the squeaking sound of the bed shaking and Li Yufei's lingering and ambiguous moans. "Tsk, tsk, tsk." Ning Shu shook his head. Making love with other women in front of the female lead was simply a weapon to torture the female lead. If the original Mu Yen Luo was here, she would probably be heartbroken. Ning Shu sat on the steps and dozed off with his head propped up on his hand, treating these sounds as a lullaby. Alas, this world has no moral integrity. Ning Shu was dozing off when he heard a roar. "Xiao Hong!" Ning Shu suddenly woke up and quickly stood up. He rubbed his eyes and looked at the livid Qi Sheng. He asked, "You're done so soon?" Suddenly, Qi Sheng's face became even more unsightly. He held the folding fan tightly in his hand and wished that he could beat Ning Shu to death with the folding fan. Ning Shu saw Qi Sheng's livid face and instantly knew that he had said something wrong. He closed his mouth and didn't speak, but his eyes looked at the place 3 inches below Qi Sheng's navel. Could it be that he was really scared? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.